my audio sound okay?
think you sound. I had to adjust it on my just volume level a little bit, but it's fine.
Okay,
Um,
I wasn't sure if it sounded like coming from a headphone or something. We up? I'm seeing we're live.
yeah, it looks like I see our stuff, so we are live.
Oh boy! Hello,
Hello?
everyone.
Okay, there we go. Now my mic's working too. Okay.
Hey, yeah, it's another weekly Weeb Club stream, and we got a special guest, our first guest actually. Yeah, I don't we haven't done guests yet, so I don't know how this is gonna go because we don't have
Natty
a.
was
Oh,
on as
well,
a guest one
I
time
wasn't
when
there.
you were gone.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Hey yo, shout out to Natty.
And some other people on that one episode.
Yeah, so
You guys
they're
weren't there, but that did
technically, but
happen.
yeah.
I've never been on an episode with a guest. Excuse me.
No, it is.
have
Yeah,
it.
it is. I mean, the first time that everyone and a guest has been on. It's exciting. How are you doing?
Hey, it's Shaybs. Thank you for having me,
Yeah.
fellas. Yay! I'll tell you, fellas. I was so excited and looking forward to this podcast so much, and then I had dinner tonight, like not even just a half hour ago, and now my stomach is bloated. So now I'm
Aw.
just like, oh good,
No.
oh good, just go. Happy to be here, but I don't know. Hopefully,
That
I don't feel
happens to
too
me
winded.
sometimes, and sometimes I'll like. We have definitely had times, not when for the stream ones,
Yeah.
thankfully, but when we would record normally, that's happened to me, and I'll like go lay down and be like, it's fine. I'll get up in 30
Oh.
minutes for the Weeb Club.
I
I wake up like
deadass
2
was
hours
laying on
later.
my bed. I was laying.
That's
on
a
my bed
dangerous
being
game
like,
to play without
I'll
an
be
alarm
fine.
set.
I'll be fine.
Because I have
I was-
definitely done
yeah.
that and woken up 2 hours later and just
That's
oh,
fair.
that's terrible.
Dropped into a stream that's been going for an hour already,
Dude,
and it's like,
That has like me on the thumbnail and shit. It's like, oh, I'd feel like
oh
crap.
no, that
I'd
would,
feel like,
oh god,
I'd feel
I didn't
like
even think of
Garbo.
Oh, no.
I would have felt like Garbo, but that didn't happen.
Stronger
Yeah,
man
you
than
did
I
it.
guess.
That's fucking.
You've got an hour to spare and you're ready to
Um,
jump into a game. Then you get hit with the.
But
yeah.
yeah, thank you guys for having me. I've enjoyed the podcast, and I'm happy to see you guys are back after having a short hiatus and everything.
Yeah,
Welcome
okay,
back,
another one.
etc.
But yeah, to sort of explain that from my end is like, well, because I moved and I wasn't in a space where I could like record or do stuff, and so I kind of just fell off of not making videos, and I'd already kind of fallen off of watching AniTube. So then like this year I came back to where I lived before, and I've been sort of trying to get back into things, and I think basically the exact time what happened is on Tuesday I had a very bad day at work. I ended up getting sent home due to things, and I believe you were doing one of your Shaybs. You were doing one of your streams, your an anime encyclopedia streams, and I just popped in and helped pick me up. And so we'd already been planning to potentially bring guests on the Weeb Club, but like now you're in my head, and it's like I'll just shoot him a message, and now here we are. But then like since then I've also like you messaged me about like you're watching my One Piece videos, and then like I watched some of the Piss Pirates podcast, and then like I also watched your Gurren Lagann video, which was
Wow.
like really good because I've
Right.
been putting it off for 3 years.
Well, as
'cause
you
it-
do with 2-hour videos, I get it.
Perhaps. Well, I think what
Par
also
for the
so this
course.
is here's a
So
really
true.
really funny like thing that happened. So it's just like because you mentioned like, oh, people don't talk about all of Gurren Lagann's adventures in this way. And in fairness, like you did a fucking phenomenal job. But it's also really funny because a few months before you put out that video, we did a backlog on Gurren Lagann, and
Oh yeah.
in the second half of it, I mentioned doing a video because basically what I noticed while rewatching it is that, or watching, because at this time I'd read Joe and
Exactly.
I'd read
Rewatching it
Robo.
after having like read and experienced so much, you're like, oh my god, it's all here.
Yeah, and well,
Gang's
especially
all
like because
here.
Yeah, and basically the point of the video I would have done would have basically, because like Gurren Lagann has the whole like respecting the past, living in the present, and then going towards the future, and like spiraling the past.
These feel incredibly
and I was gonna be like, oh,
awkward and
what's
just
kind of
not
neat
fun
about
to
how Gurren
control.
Lagann does
Like,
its
who wants to play a
references is that
basketball
like
game on the
it
Wii
goes
like this?
beyond them. Like, okay, what happens after Joe dies? What
NRA
happens
Varmint
after they
Hunter
save
is
the
a
desert
hunting
in
game released for
Zabungo?
Microsoft
What happens
Windows.
like after? Let's envision a conflict at the end of Get a Robo, and then
I
you get
can't
your
play
video,
it.
and it's like
It's just a
I didn't
poorly
even need to
made
watch it.
hunting
I was
game
just
where
like,
you
okay, I'll
shoot
just
gophers or
put
whatever.
that one in the
And
folder.
judging by
videos
this
well,
game,
and
there
everything
it is.
goes.
Game.
Right.
But it's
No,
like
yeah.
if anyone was gonna do that
Ruthless.
video, it's like, well, okay, you did it.
Game.
You
I mean,
fucking
it's
knocked
much
it
more
out of the
playable
park.
than other games,
Like
but
I
I
had,
just got
like
bored of
my
it.
internet was
Thank
fucking up
you.
and it kept
It's not the
buffering,
worst thing
and I
out
was
there,
like,
but it's far
I want to watch the video. Stop that! Like, let me just watch it.
Yeah.
And there was like, I was laughing, I was tearing up. Like, just the editing was like, there was one early-ish on where like you had the robot taking out the generator and it exploded, and then you
Sorry about
transition
the
that into like
background
a split
noise.
screen of like comparing Getter energy
my
and
Oh yeah.
Spiral
tab
Rapture
opened up and
crashed
auto
the
played a video.
screen
I
and-
apologize.
You're not.
I got
You're not allowed to do that. It's what? That was-
Yeah.
and,
And the
um,
the editing in that is so indulgent because like that's all I was working on. It was like the early months of the pandemic, right? From like
Mhm.
March,
yep,
April, May,
yep.
June, July, August, September. That's all I worked on, and I was thankfully able to get like monetary assistance because like my job technically like slowed down. Like I
Mhm.
couldn't do my job or whatever at the time. So I was able to get financial assistance, and so yeah, I was really able to just zone in and work on that. And it's funny you mentioned that you already picked up on the influential tide that like it makes sense that Gurren Lagann thematically has to do with inspiration. I did not pick up on that when I first had the idea because it originally started as a Mia Maffava video because I was planning a Mia Maffava when I was getting out of AmeriCorps in like 2018, 2019. And I didn't end up doing it, obviously, but a lot of video scripts were born out of that, and one of them was the Gurren Lagann thing, and now I think it was kind of like a rush thing, kind of off the top of my head. It was more out of a vendetta of like, God damn it, these modern anime fans need to check out the classics, like very curmudgeonly and everything, and that was kind of the angle it was going to go in. But like, I think it was sort of something like, I think it was like I knew Get a Robo was a thing, so I was like, well, I should probably get to watching Get a Robo or read Get a Robo and everything. And it was experiencing that story that I was like, oh, I really have to take this seriously. Oh, this is actually like really, this is much bigger than I thought it would be.
Mhm.
And then yeah, the pandemic happened, so I was like, well, okay, we're doing it. Yeah, it kind of blew up the way it did because I have that like weird thing in my head where if I have multiple sections in a video and one of them ends up being 20 minutes, I have to make the other ones 20 minutes and go that hard and go that deep.
I gotcha.
That was kind of a thing that with my Doremi video, and that's why that one turned out to be over an hour. Similar types of mentalities. It's not the help because I always had this. It was ever since my first Berserk video, where I had one really good point, but I technically had 3 points, but the other 2 points were so underdeveloped and like nonsense and like whatever, dude. Clearly you had something in the first part, and that was like 2/3 of the video, and they're like, yeah, I have other points, but yeah, fuck it. And so that's like a one regret I have of that video. But yeah, I was already all about my shit. But yeah, I'm really glad you enjoyed that. I will never make anything that good ever again.
Well, I mean, I thought about you saying that, and it's like when are you going to get like the time, the inspiration, the energy? Like when is a perfect storm going to happen for you to do that again? Like I think it's fine. Like like it's fine. Like you don't feel bad about it, man. Like that's an insanely good. Like come on.
Yeah, I don't think I feel bad about it necessarily. If anything, it's like that's nice to know that there's a peak, and that it's like when Oda wrote Water 7, and he's like, damn, I don't think I can top that. Oh well, I guess we'll just keep going. And like he recognized that within himself, and it didn't kind of let him stop him. And I still think Water 7 is the best arc, but that doesn't. I think that doesn't negate how freaking phenomenal Thriller Bark was. Like really insanely fun. and Fishman and Thriller and Punk Hazard and Dressrosa and Wano and Whole Cake. You know, like it's still insanely impressive and incredible, and obviously the entire work is something to marvel. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, how do you do another? Because people are excited about like Elbath,
Mhm.
and what it means for Usopp. But in my head, I'm like, what could he possibly do that tops Water 7? What he did with
Yeah.
Usopp in Water 7, like
Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah.
what do you do with, like, yeah, he made it and that's important for him, but now what? Like, what is the thing that he's gonna do, right?
Yeah, especially with like now where Howie's writing the Straw Hats is like obviously like Whole Cake Island was a little different because it got so Sanji got so much focus. But
Yeah,
like with everyone else, it feels like how he'll do it is he'll just like he'll give them like obviously they're there for the jokes and they'll get fights and stuff, and in those stuff they'll actually get like ideas that like I literally in my Wano video I talk about like Usopp's scene where he goes and saves Kanjuro and Kinemon, or not Kanjuro, not Kinemon
yeah,
and
Kiku and Kiku, yeah,
mixing
that it's
him
a
a
big deal
case.
for him. That's a really
Yeah,
big deal for
it's
him, and I think everyone is distracted by like, Kinemon shouldn't be alive.
ah, fuck,
I know,
dude.
I know.
Yeah, and
I
it's like
I'm a big
yeah, that
Kinemon
one
stan. He
scene,
deserved to live. He deserved to live,
like
Wano.
like in my Wano video, I literally take that back to fucking to Water 7 because like and compare it to like Usopp as Sniper King being kind of like he's like a hero, and his idea of a hero is also like something kind of close to the samurai in that like they're trying to find a place to die, and he just like fights Jabra like head on, like I can do it, I'm a hero, I can do it, and it doesn't fucking work because he's not fighting like Usopp, he's not being a trickster, and and so like his message to the samurai kind, like the idea that it's coming from that place is just like, yeah, fuck yeah,
Right.
and he can just like do this, like here's this one scene in this one chapter that had like five other things going on because the chapters are super dense, but it's still really good for Usopp's character.
And
you
the
know?
anime kind of emphasized it, actually. The latest
Okay,
episode, the Gear
that's
5
good.
episodes, it really felt like it was like a big thing, but it really felt it made me realize that that's Usopp's function in this. Like, he doesn't have a major fight in Wano. Like, he kind of just assists a little bit, but he really didn't have like a major moment like Robin did, or Sanji, or
Mhm.
Zoro, or even Frankie. With okay, Frankie's okay. But like it's really just like Usopp and Brook that didn't get like a major thing, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, like, Brook assists Robin, and I love their dynamic. I'm happy that Robin and Brook to kind of have a thing with each other, like a dynamic.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think now, but I definitely feel like Usopp spends most of his time with Nami just like fucking running away.
Yes. Which, like, well, yeah, dealing with Big Mom, which was the best shit.
Yeah,
I thought that was such a funny pairing.
I think is like such a good like part of One Piece arcs is when like you'll have Straw Hats that don't have to necessarily like all carry serious weight with fights. Like you can have just Usopp and Nami going around, and like every couple chapters, you'll get like a couple pages with them with a joke, and then you move on, and it's okay, and it can add some levity in arcs where there's a lot of other shit going on that's like crazy, and I think it adds some nice change.
Yeah, and it just wasn't their place to do that this time, because there's that moment at the very beginning of the raid where the Straw Hats kind of go ahead of everyone else and they beat up that outpost, and everyone is kicking so much ass, and then Usopp, Nami, and Chopper are just on the boat being like, "Great job, guys! Yeah."
The one panel where it's just like they're just like peeking over the edge of the ship, and it's just like all the strong Straw Hats are like kicking ass, and they're just like looking, and it's like it's so good.
Yeah. I think they gave like a thumbs up or something in the anime, or what, I don't know. Oh man, but it's like, well, that's okay. They'll find something to like. I think their function of like protecting Otama was fantastic, because Otama was such a major factor of why they did so well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know. He just found great ways to use them, even though it wasn't the, my development or although it's exciting now with Egghead that it just kind of opened up this latest chapter where Vagabond kind of went off on his own, and it's like, oh, it's not gonna end as quick as we thought it was, and you had both Frankie and Sanji kind of like, wait up, let me come with you. And they split off from them. It's like, oh, they're gonna get something. Oh, we're gonna get all right. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm especially hoping for Frankie just because of like he's had this connection to Vegapunk for so long, and the idea because like Frankie's whole thing was about responsibility, and from what we've seen of Vegapunk, he doesn't necessarily have responsibility, and it feels like it's right there in my face, and it's like, you know, so I'm really hoping we get that.
Yeah, well,
but
I mean,
I also I have a specific thought regarding Egghead, that because I mentioned I'm doing a video which funnily enough doesn't actually talk about Egghead any, but it does. It's kind of, it's more structural, if that makes sense. But sorry,
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just
Someone
gonna, I
else
feel
did.
like they've been
Yeah.
setting up like the Frankie and like Vegapunk stuff, like, you know, not just through like mentioning Vegapunk all over Water 7, but also like, you know, that's where he goes during time skip is Vegapunk's training lab. Like,
Oh yeah.
I feel like it's like clearly like time, like as the same way that like people knew Zoro would get a bunch in Wano, and that had been like clear. I'm sure that, you know, this arc will
Definitely.
get, you know.
I'll have to say it is hard for me to see how. I don't know in what I want it too. I absolutely want Frankie to get something here, because he straight up hasn't gotten pretty much anything since Water 7, in my opinion. Like he's got
Very small
he's
things,
got
but
appearances.
very
Like
small.
He has a
yeah.
fight in Dressrosa, but I would agree
yeah,
that
but
that
it's not
fight
about
doesn't.
him.
Yeah, I'd agree. The fight doesn't lead, like, Frankie doesn't have a realization about like his life or anything.
No, there's nothing.
yeah,
there's
yeah,
no
I agree.
involvement. Everyone just remembers it as like, oh, so
Funny man
weirdly,
in diaper.
funny
yeah.
man gets development. Okay, and I low key I kind of thought that was a little overhyped. I think I
think
had so
the way
many
people talk about it, I think
lofty
that's fair. Yeah.
expectations, and I was like, well, yeah, it is a pretty effective backstory, but I don't remember. I think we had already gotten the Corazon flashback, and we had already gotten everything with Rebecca and the toy soldier and her dad. I was like, I'm good. I like I'm just surprised that everyone's like, wow, that's like one of the best things ever, when there's this other incredible stuff in Dressrosa that I was like way more impressed by, and is way more central to that arc. Just saying.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
no.
even
do people
to- even
seriously
to,
say
like,
that's
add
like some of the
on-
best stuff in Dressrosa? Like it's good,
Why
but
did I?
it's not
Well,
like...
why did I never hear about Rebecca and that toy soldier?
Oh, because they're
Because
fucking hate.
people
They're
are
disliked.
stupid.
Yeah, 'cause people
Like,
are fucking stupid.
I think
yeah.
Dressrosa is interesting because you can pinpoint Dressrosa is like the most likely time that people who were talking about anime in like the mid to late 2010s realistically would have started catching up to One Piece, because that is
Yes.
absolutely when they all started saying it
Because
got
it's the
terrible.
It's because it's the Marineford boom.
Yeah, it's like they all started catching up and were like, oh, and like it's funny because people will say this all the time, and it just gets later and later as people catch up at different times. But they
Yeah.
all say the same thing and just like don't realize what it is, which is One Piece was really good until I caught up. And then it just kind of got really slow and lame, and there were too many characters, and it's like, wow, I wonder what
Yeah.
happened. Maybe a change in the way
Right.
you like engaged with it.
It is the way they engage. Absolutely. That reminds me of a really funny King Recon video where it's a sketch where I think it started from like Fishman Island, where he's like the One Piece fan at the beginning of Fishman Island. It's like, yeah, the crew's back, let's go. And to Fishman Island, oh, fucking finally, get off of Fishman Island, Jesus Christ. And then the beginning of Punk Hazard, let's go, Punk Hazard. Yeah, let's do arc, let's go. End of Punk Hazard, oh my god, finally, let's get off of fucking Punk Hazard. And it just repeats every single time.
Yeah, I think
Where there's so much excitement and hype at the beginning of the arc, and then spit it out, go away, get it away from me.
Yeah.
Fuck this arc.
I mean, it doesn't help that they're, like once you get to post time skip, especially if people are watching, it's like 100 episode. Like Wano's 150 episodes to watch all the way
It's
through.
like it's nearly 200.
Yeah, that's
It
like
started
so
it started
crazy.
at 890. It started at 892, and it's at 1077. It's literally got
Yeah, it's
like 5 or
I
6
ca- I-
episodes before it is over 200 episodes, which is the length between the start of the story through Skypiea. The entirety of One Piece from start to end of Skypiea is 200 episodes.
I almost wonder if One Piece would be in a better state now, and like people would complain a lot more. But if the anime would be better at that stuff, if they just brought back the filler
No.
arcs.
No, because I think it's I do think it's because Oda has made the Wano chapters so especially dense. To me, watching the episodes, having not read the chapters, it doesn't. It feels like they are adapting 2 or 3 chapters.
Okay,
really,
so it doesn't feel
me,
like
they're
they're having to like change how they adapt it to fit like the
there's
manga's
certain
weird release schedule.
No, I think like there are some episodes where they do it poorly. Yeah, right. With like the 2 moments that come to my mind are at the beginning of Wano during like the sumo stuff. You know that stretched a little, like 1 episode too long, where it didn't feel like anything happened. Not a lot of story beats or anything, and then the dramatic moments weren't that engaging because it's like, I know what happens. I know the sumo guy doesn't matter or anything. Like, can we do something else? Yeah, that was one like point of discouragement. And then it was actually way earlier than everyone else realizes. Annie's Lobby. I was getting a little impatient.
Yep.
I was getting impatient at like, because I know the scene of them on the rooftop of like that building, of that gate. They're all lined up and everything. I'm kind of waiting for that moment, and it takes this crew like 20 episodes of just trying to run and through the marine thing and getting to that gate. It's like, how are they still trying to get there? Like, they've been running like full speed that entire time, and they're still not there. And yeah, I definitely think this pace has been here the entire time.
Okay.
I would say even from I've been rewatching One Piece, like I rewatched the first episode, and the moment where he pops out of the barrel, they cut away from the guy's face to the barrel like 4 times, which is something people complain about in Dressrosa. But like that, this has been a thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how they've always done it. And I don't think people noticed, because a lot of those people, maybe they were anime only, and were so kind of immersed in what was going on, or the music and everything that they do to kind of make you forget those sorts of things. But it's impossible to forget those things if you've read the manga, because the manga is so fucking fast.
Absolutely, right. And I'm actually really glad you said that, because like I have been thinking about it, how like I think I remember getting bugged by the pacing as someone who's been reading the manga since I can date it. It was chapter 408, the one where Monster Chopper debuted. Because I just remember like seeing the low quality spoilers stands, and that image struck me.
Dude,
but yeah, no, like you guys were talking in your podcast about how like, oh man, people actually read spoilers before the chapter, and that was me up until fucking from like partway through Enia's Lobby through when I realized I really shouldn't. It was when the Zoro got separated. He got Kuma came in out of fucking nowhere and just like, boop, Zoro's gone. And I was like, so I did it a lot, and that was when I realized like, why am I doing this? Like, why did I spoil myself on like this fucking
the main
pivotal
thing,
moment, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I finally stopped, and now I at least
Holy
shit.
shit.
Even if I end up like especially now, I follow like one account, or I was following it, where they would like almost post spoilers like as soon as the official chapter came out. So I'll just read the fan translation sometimes. So it's like, but
I'm at TCB. I do read it on like Wednesday or Thursday before the Sunday one.
If I'm being honest, like I have a problem, especially recently, catching up with manga, but I feel like it's so impossible to be even remotely aware of things and not avoid spoilers. Like, I have not read you, like, to shift it off One Piece just for a split second, and you might know where I'm going with this. Yeah, I have not read it since the Shibuya incident. And I know that recent spoiler that happened because people just could not shut up about it. And don't get me wrong, it's fucking hysterical. But like, it's crazy because like I haven't read it in like 2 years and I can't get away from the spoiler. But because I read it, like I know the series well enough that the spoilers like stuck in my brain, right? Because like I have this like theory that like, and I don't know if like other people feel like this, but if I see a spoiler for something before I know it, there's a much higher chance the spoiler just like kind of leaves my brain. Because like if it's like character name kills character name, right? Like I'll use a spoiler everyone knows, right? If it's like Snape kills Dumbledore.
Yeah, the result of a fight.
Yeah, like I don't know what that means at all if I hadn't seen Harry Potter, so there's a much higher chance that someone could say that or even explain it to me a little bit, and it just kind of leaves my brain because it doesn't mean anything. But the second I start Harry Potter and I've read the first book and now I know who Snape and Dumbledore are, someone tells me Snape kills Dumbledore and you know what I mean? Like now I'm fucking like the spoiler means something to me now and it sticks with me. So it's just so funny that like nowadays I feel like if you don't check the Like, especially for a manga that's coming out, if you don't just like read the chapter the minute it goes live, like you can't expect to stay unspoiled. Like, it's just they're there.
That's why I'm reading it, even
Yeah.
though I was actually reading it way before I caught up. Like I was reading it when I was like watching Marineford for the first time, or Thriller Bark.
No,
or
yeah, you
something.
talked
I was
about
reading
the Gear
latest
5
chapters.
reveal,
Yeah,
like very early, relatively.
yeah. Well,
just 'cause-
when it was happening, because like I saw that like the chapter before, like the end of that chapter, you see like Joy Boy's return, whatever, and the Melty, whatever. I knew from that moment, it's like, yeah, next episode, something's gonna happen, and yeah, I read it without having. But the thing is that I had experienced One Piece through osmosis so much. Like when Wano was starting, I remember having conversations with that guy Fred, that's a friend of mine, who, like, he's explaining Wano to me and everything that's going on, and how it's divided into like the no act theater, and it's like, yeah, we're on like Act 2 right now, and it's like, so this is going to be like Act 3, and then something Act 4. You know, we're just like speculating, and I'm like participating in this speculating when I had not seen any One Piece. I went to fucking One Piece Stampede in theaters with him. And I enjoyed it. I didn't know anybody, but like, you know,
That's
yeah,
that's really funny thinking about the like big like fan servicey Ace moment at the end of Stampede.
The
How like
whole movie is like, do you remember that character?
It's the most
Like,
it's
there's
the
so
most
many
cameo-filled
background
movie.
cameos.
no, I
Yeah.
know,
Like,
I know,
it's
but just like the Ace
insane.
one is especially funny
Oh, yeah,
because
that
it's
is
just like the most like, hey, this character dies, and like you would have
yeah.
no fucking clue.
Well,
And so you
and
would
that's the
see
thing.
Ace and be like,
I knew even
oh,
that
look at this
before
guy.
watching Stampede. Like
Yeah.
it's on the it's
that's fair.
The fucking the amount that I knew of One Piece before going in knows no bounds. Like the few things, there was a couple small things, like I didn't know about Sword and a certain character being a member of Sword and being revealed in Wano. I'm like, oh, right, I didn't know that. There's certain things that like had to catch me like that, but really, if anything, I think those spoilers kind of enhanced my love for it, because I can't believe I still love it as hard as I did, despite knowing nearly every story beat, because there are so many story beats and small moments and comedy bits and little interactions. It is so detailed and rich that it literally didn't matter if I knew.
Yeah.
And like all the execution and everything, it's like, it doesn't matter. There's like obviously a few things that I could have been like, I was a little overhyped for. I do think I was overhyped for Marineford quite a bit. And
Yeah.
I think I was actually slightly overhyped for I Want to Live, if you could believe it. I still think it's good. I still think it's great, but like the Nami moment actually still tops it for me, because I knew about that moment, but I did not know that Luffy had literally no idea. Like the fact that he like refused to listen to her backstory, that was something I did not know, and that enhanced it like tenfold for me, and so that it completely enriched that moment. And I don't think there was necessarily anything in the I Want to Live moment that I didn't already know. I think that
makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, not to say it was a bad moment, obviously it's goated, but like, I'm just talking about my own personal experience, I guess.
No, I gotcha. But real quick, I laughed at the chat because Lunaxer got spoiled on JJK by the Duolingo Twitter, apparently, which is
That's
Jesus
crazy. That's so fucking wild. What the hell? Duolingo dropped the JJK spoiler. That's so crazy when you consider like where the anime is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
eons behind.
Yeah, it's why like I would, because I feel like that's my rule of thumb generally for the most part in like broad sense for like talking about spoilers, is like especially for like manga spoilers, like the anime has got to be there, you know. If you're just gonna like go hog wild talking about something like Gear 5, I probably wouldn't have gone like if it wasn't as like everybody knew about it. But
yeah, that
talking
was
about like
it's incredibly viral moment when the anime got there. Fucking, not that it's a like a significant metric, but like, like, I'm watching it on Crunchyroll, and the episodes regularly get like over 1,000 comments, and like 2,000 comments. And I think the most I ever saw was like 6,000 comments for like Zoro versus King or whatever. The debut of Gear 5 had 24,000 comments
crazy.
in the first day.
Dude, I love Crunchyroll comments, by the way. That is just
Yeah.
like a different breed. Like, not in like a
Yeah,
bad way.
it is.
It really honestly always just reminds me like how many people will like have Crunchyroll and use it to watch shows that they're interested in and not go on Twitter and talk shit
Yeah.
and be like
They
annoying.
just watch their anime, man.
Yeah, they're just
Oh.
there to have a good time, and it really like
Bliss.
humbles you sometimes. It's like, you know, not everyone
Yeah.
is like this person that I think is like so annoying and, you know, all the noise.
Yeah. But then it's like, how long are they going to be a fan? I wonder. It'll be interesting. Like my cousin had like a big anime phase, but it was a phase. It was like, you know, he still likes it and he reads some manga and light novels, but he's decidedly like, you know, he's gotten his big boy job as like a assistant nurse at a hospital, whatever. And so he's like, yeah, I have less time to watch it, type of deal, and he's not as feverish for it as I think a lot of people start out as, and how many of us never escape.
But yeah, I was also Ombre, who I know him. He's a big like mecha guy. He watches a lot of Toku too. He had a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna read them. Was Zambot 3 planned to have Kappei as the sole pilot, and was the staff more inclined to take more inspiration from Mazinger Z over Getter Robo?
That's really interesting. I don't know what Tomino's perspective was on other mecha series. What I do know is, in terms of what he does know about what he says about other mecha, was that like at the time of Gundam, it was entering a sunset period. A lot of people kind of rushed it and like it was like an oversaturated market, and so that was the perspective he was going into with Gundam, I believe. I don't know what his perspective was about Zambot. Unfortunately, I didn't do that sort of research about like the initial plans of Zambot. I also just don't know how much of that is available. It probably is, but you see, this was before New Type magazine. I believe it's before New Type magazine. Because right, like, you know, because around that like late 70s period with the Yamato movie and Gundam, just created this big explosion of fan interest. And so anime before that period, a lot of them might be talked about retroactively, like Heidi or something. But you don't necessarily get as much for, I think, those titles pre that, so including Zambot. So I mean, if I was to guess of what inspiration they took of Mazinger or Getter, I don't know. I guess tonally it would probably be more like. That's really tough too, because I don't think there was that much different between Mazinger and Getter at that time. You know, as of like 1977, all you have really is the Getter Robo anime, the original, and then like the manga, which is raw and kind of different, but I don't know if they took from. There really isn't much they took from that specifically, I don't think. And at that point, yeah, the anime for both of those titles are fairly similar, if I'm not mistaken. I can't claim to have seen them. I've seen a lot of the later stuff for Mazinger and Getter, like Armageddon and Mazinkaiser, but I've not gotten around to the full original TV shows of both of those, so I don't quite know. But that's the best answer I can give. Besides, beats me, bro.
Appreciate it. I hope Ombre appreciates it. He had another question real quick. Was the Rose of Versailles adaptation meant to be 40 episodes? Looks like a way bigger production in terms of people working on it compared to Aim for the Ace. So
yeah, it's certainly an unusual number of episodes, right? Like very few, if any, shows have that many episodes. I think there definitely has to have been something that went wrong, because Nagahama passed away in the middle of the production. He was the original director.
That would do it.
Yeah, and Dazaki was just sort of an assistant director, or kind of like there, but he was mainly working on Aim for the Ace movie. I don't know that the production schedule of how that overlapped with both of them. And you also have to think that like he was intending to make Ashinojo 2 as well, around that period as well. So for him to kind of pick Rose of Versailles up, and then I think it's only a couple months later that Joe premieres. So it's kind of an interesting. It turned out pretty good, all things considered, and the adaptation I think is fairly different regardless. I think just Dazaki, I think admittedly I have not read the manga. I've only kind of gleamed it but to my understanding, it's very different. So yeah, there's probably a lot of juggling and different stuff that whether it was meant to be 40 episodes, probably not, is my guess. But I didn't really look into those production history really.
Again, I haven't watched these shows. I read Getarobo, but none of the other ones quite yet there. I don't even. Yeah, but anyway. While we're on a topic change, Nunmanji, what was the one that you wanted to bring up? Because I have two written down here, but hey,
I mean, it was just like generally talking about like, you know, like the I'm sure you've talked, like I know you have talked about it before, Shaybs, but like your general idea of like how the community is now. Like obviously it's a lot more fragmented, and people are staying within their own smaller bubbles and not really like interacting or having much crossover anymore.
A lot of people have retired. A lot of people have pivoted away from anime. It's just different. It's not the same. There's still people that are doing stuff, obviously, that are exciting, and I'm happy that they're still at it and everything, including you guys. It's nice that you guys are still around. It's just something I want to take an appreciation for, because it's easy for us to kind of think of this as normal in the present and how it's always going to be, because I think all of us are still fairly young, I guess, and it's not easy. It's not hard to think. You know, we don't know what this internet stuff's going to be like or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've noticed with working at this summer camp that I've been working at since 2011. I've been working there for over 10 years. So like this past summer was my 11th summer, and I'm like the 5th or 6th most senior person there now, out of like a staff of 200, 250. Because just so many people turn over eventually. Some people, you know, the average is like 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 or 6. But I'm one of very, very few people that make it to 10. And that's given me a lot of perspective about like a lot of like just the passage of time, and the circles that we're in right now are not always going to be there. And it's sort of like taking stock and appreciation for the people you have around you. So I do want to express my gratitude and admiration for you guys and just being here and having me on this podcast. I just want to be grateful about it. But yeah, it's really, but it's really tough because it's I don't know. We don't even know what fucking YouTube's gonna be like in like 5-10 years, right? Like I've seen some like some people like Colin and Samir talking about it or whatever, and they seem optimistic. And I think a lot of their perspective is that they've been told about like, what are you gonna do if YouTube just collapses tomorrow, if it's just not here anymore? Their perspective, there was like the round table that they did with a couple of the YouTubers, but I think their perspective ultimately was like, it'll be sad, but it won't take away the experience that we gained and the skills that we developed in creativity and work ethic and networking and right? So they'll kind of find ways to keep being creative, I guess, even if this is all to kind of go away or change completely. And it just made me think about how even these people that have stopped, you know, that have retired or whatever, they're not dead. Well, most of them. I don't want to make assumptions.
Yeah.
But they're probably found something else.
Well, and
that is really fulfilling for them.
The nice part about most AniTubers is, almost cynically as it is outside of the really big ones, they never got big enough where like their name would come up if you searched them. So like it makes getting another like job really easy, right? Like, no, that's just like being honest. Like, you know, especially some of the bigger AniTubers or just YouTubers in general that you think of when they, you know, for whatever reason have to stop doing it, especially once it becomes a career and reaches that point, it gets a lot harder to quit. But I think thankfully anime YouTube's in a position where it's really hard to reach that size. So it's something that people only ever do as a hobby. And because of that, it makes it a lot easier and more freeing to just step away if you want. And, you know, stop making
Yeah.
content because you're not monetarily incentivized and it's not your job and it's not your life, and you can just go live a normal life after and be happy, you know?
Oh yeah, and we see that with some of our mutuals, if you're still mutuals with some of them, where uh, they are living their not lives very normal, and you could even forget that they once made YouTube videos, and it's weird. I actually was that actually at like Lachlan and Zaria's wedding uh, a year or two ago, and it was a bunch of former anime YouTubers who were all just joking around that none of us make videos anymore.
Oh no.
And then like Mathis and I are still there like yeah we because we didn't quit, but we don't upload as much, so it was just like yeah.
Yep. No,
Um,
I feel like she might have mentioned that because obviously I'm still friends with Mathis and we talk a lot, but because she did mention meeting you there, so that was neat.
oh yeah.
But it's actually like because I have thought about this occasionally, but it's just coming back to me again where it's like yeah I took a big hiatus, but like especially now I'm not gonna I can't make the videos at the speed I used to, but I am planning to be back. And like I was especially thinking about how like I remember because I was really into the PCP and they're around and some of them are still doing YouTube, many of them are, but the podcast obviously is broken up and like it's all that. And then I also remember like Pedantic Romantic, and there was also another channel that because I remember some of the first recognition my channel got because I put up my video, and Trixie on the same day she retweeted my video, my fucking horrible Your Lie in April video,
Yeah.
one of Pedantic's earlier videos, and then there was another person, I don't remember the name of his channel at the time. He changed it later to like Anime Axolotl, but then I like looked it up and it's not, I can't find it, so I don't know. I just remember being like, yeah, because at the time I'd fixate more on like smaller YouTubers because like I remember Mirage
Yeah.
Fan coming out just and doing this one video
Yeah,
on like Madoka being
and then
and
doing
then
a
she
lot
like
of podcasts with Pedantic, yeah.
yeah, and then not existing, and
Yeah.
right,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like
100%.
I
Exactly.
it's like because I remember like seeing kind of Pedantic as my rival because like
Yeah.
we both, because I had a lot of push from like Best Guy Ever, really like my One Piece and Fairy Tail stuff.
Cool.
Trixie mentioned my video, like the Your Lie in April one came up a couple times. I think I saw her posting one of mine in her comment section or something somewhere,
Right.
and like
yeah.
so but obviously Pedantic went farther and faster, so but then like now
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'm the only one here.
Well, you're
Oh,
still here. Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm still here, but it's there's that like, oh, you look back and everyone's gone kind of feeling, and it's like, oh shit,
Yes.
you
Yes.
You can say you won. Yay.
Hey, let's go. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it is hard to quantify where it's like, well, I never got as big as this person, but are they going to be making video? Like, there's people that shoot up way, past me all the damn time, right? 19.6K isn't too much. So the people pass me all the time, and but then I'm thinking, okay, well, how long are you going to be here? Right? Like how sustainable is this for you? Like you were a freshman in college right now, and you got the time or whatever. I am 5 years out of college, and I'm still here.
Yeah, no, and I think maybe that might even would be one of the reasons why I kind of like clicked with like coming back to your content, because I was familiar with you. I remember I think someone mentioned your Fukumoto video, and that was my first video that I watched. And I, as a fan of someone who liked Kaiji and Akage, I was like,
right, like, oh my god, anybody who makes a video on that it's
right?
like, Kaiji's kind of good, guys, and like that's it. That's the only fucking content of Fukumoto you ever get on YouTube.
Okay, well, see, now that you said that, because I always even think I just finished rereading Kaiji, and I was like, do I want to make a Kaiji video? And I haven't been able to work up the motivation for it. But now that you say that, it's like, maybe I should. But anyway, to go back to my original point was like, I think part of the reason I gravitated, like, I even thought it was funny is that because I remember when you first started the AniTube Digest, and then very recently, like around the same time I got back into your stuff, you've literally switched the format back to what it originally used to be. So there's like a kind of like funny full circle thing there, and especially because like even before I fell off, I was just getting really annoyed with like anime YouTube in general. Like, not even that it was bad, but just like because I'd watch a video and then I just get like unreasonably annoyed by
Yeah.
certain things, and that like I remember the what really like set me off in that, like, or not set me off, that's the wrong word, but just like where the point where I just go like I can't do it anymore, I can't just watch other videos. It was the pause and select no vid, the second one, where it's like you have to watch like other videos and frame your argument in
Oh yeah.
the and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this Kill a Kill video talking about like people who think it's a magical girl show. I started the first video and it was perfect. It was fine, but like, you know, because it was like part of a series where I guess she was gonna go through a bunch of magical girl series and discuss them, and she was sort of started off defining what she felt a magical girl series was, and like I felt like 60% of what she was saying was literally just like it could also be applied to transforming hero stuff and like tokusatsu, and she was like cutie honey, man, you know, Kill a Kill, and like magical girls, and I'm like, no.
Yeah,
And I just like and there were other like I had a whole ass list of other videos and her whole ass series, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't, and I did, like I made the
Right.
video still, but it wasn't part of the no vid because I literally couldn't finish 3 videos to add them to my video.
Yeah.
And that was when
yeah.
I just stopped. But now I'm actually getting back into it. Like I've literally watched like not only your Gurren Lagann video, I watched, there was a neat one. It wasn't NA2, but it's still like very relevant. The ideas, it was the like, why do we kill gods in JRPGs? I think that one got some. It was an
Dude,
hour and a
that
half.
video
It
was fucking good.
interesting. Yeah, it's fucking like, yeah, and it just helped me frame like, oh, why, like the big three, like what it talks about works for like why do all these series have like false god and main antagonists, and it's like, oh yeah, same ideas.
Right.
You know,
No, for sure.
so right, so it, you know, and then like, yeah, so and then I've been also trying, like, because I'll watch through the digest, and sometimes I'll like if we talk about a video and I'm like today it was the Hikaru no Go one, where it's like I haven't watched the show, you know, I don't really know this YouTuber, so it's like cool that you're into the video, but I just I like listened to like half of that part, and I was just like, I think I'll move on, just because I'm like, I know I'm not.
No,
but I've been trying
I get that. That is kind of
Mhm.
low key. Like, I can understand clicking off of that video. I watched it all three.
Oh no, I did watch
in
the
part.
video. I was like, it was you talking about it. I just like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
I
no,
knew I
okay.
wasn't gonna watch the video, so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
No,
Like
exactly.
I like,
right.
I do
Yeah.
like hearing your thoughts, but it's like, you know, I don't necessarily like need to hear all your thoughts in every video.
Of course.
But
you
I will,
don't. No, of
but
course.
yeah, but like I've also been trying to like at least try one of the videos that you talk about, just to like,
That's
you know,
cool.
especially because like the guys you talk about are like almost all people I just don't know, because I've been so disconnected from like watching AniTube and AniTubers that I'm like, I don't even know these people. And like you'll talk about a video that has like, or at least your screen cap has like 70 views, and it's like,
exactly.
that's great. Like,
I was about to be
that.
like,
I love that.
I was like, this past digest was like the one where Keiko Cat's video was the best video. That one, every other video had like under 1,000 views, I think.
Yeah,
And like 1,000 views or under. And then the Keiko Cat, because the ones that get a lot of views, I cannot stomach for some reason. Their subjects are either like, I do not give a shit, or I try them and they're just something too sleek about the editing or their performance, and it's just like,
look, I
can't do it.
Yeah, I don't watch anime YouTube, but I get on anime TikTok from time to time, and I don't know how much time you spend on like that.
Zero.
Because like that has even changed from the time I did that video years ago. And I feel like it's probably pretty similar to like what the average opinion that you would probably see from the largest like YouTubers is nowadays. It's just something else. It's so interesting because it's changed so much, and just like the series that are talked about,
or it's devolved.
just no, I don't. I think it's just like a lateral move. I think like a big difference though is that like it like the trend of being obsessed with seasonals has gone like more so, and then a big difference is just like the series people watch when they start watching a lot more has changed a lot. Like people don't watch like Gurren Lagann or K-On! Or any KyoAni or Gainax, like those studios aren't talked about as much. Like this, well, it's just different studios. So now people talk about like Madhouse, right, and Mappa, because those are really Mappa is like the one, you know, where people are just watching like the Mappa jump adaptations and
makes 3 shows a season.
Yeah,
and they're all the most popular ones. So
yeah, really, people aren't anime fans nowadays. They're just Mappa fans, if we're being honest. Which
that's funny.
Fortunate.
Very interesting.
But yeah, it's just interesting seeing like what's talked about change, and like the way it's talked about is changed too. But I don't think I've paid enough attention to really know.
Well, it's such an opaque idea because you can get the feeling, but who's to say, really?
Yeah,
I would
because there's
probably examples of how the way these people are talking that is different. That maybe you found someone in 2007 was talking this way, and they just
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
get any attraction, or whatever.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
all
will
like
say
vibes
that
based.
I will say though the one change that I've seen over the past couple of years, ever since the fall. You're familiar with, I feel like there was this big shift in fall after like 2017 was like this really big peak of like formerly Digibro, Mother's Basement. Giga came back as like full time, like he quit the BBC around that time. There was like so many of these like really active players, and then there was even like smaller creators that the bigger players were interacting with, and they were all on a Discord server.
Mhm.
And then around
Yep, I think I
2017,
was on that server. Yeah.
yeah, I believe if you were, I was not. Um, but I like too big for like some of them kind of got too big for their britches, and this was like before any of the fucking Geeks Plus, any Geeks Plus stuff wasn't really a thing. So when they get this offer about the Flying Colors Foundation, of this big
I haven't thought
idea,
about that in so long.
yeah,
Holy fuck.
it was a
Dude.
very big drama, and I think that was kind of the big tipping point, and it was around that time when Reddit was starting to get very sick of nothing but YouTube videos topping their pages because we were just killing it. And so I think it was around that time where Reddit like banned
Yep.
self uploads of YouTube videos, and then Flying Colors like really tarnished a lot of, and it broke up that
Dude.
Discord server because it was literally like a us versus them type of thing. Big kerfuffle. Obviously, nothing like newsworthy or anything. It was just like really within our space. It kind of fizzled out, but trust was never the same after that. And you just keep seeing on Twitter, and probably I was really mostly on Twitter, just like this overall sentiment that anime YouTubers were brain rots. We're just complete morons. Don't trust a fucking thing they say. They're all shit. They are all shit. They are all shit. Okay, and we've not recovered from that. But really, the only recovery I have seen is that they're all shit, but these ones are okay. I like Scamboli. I like Hazel. Kenny Lauderdale's pretty good. It's just like those three.
Yeah,
It's just like
Okay.
those three. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, it just what happened was after a point, the biggest anime YouTuber left because there were other ones that were big, and then they all for whatever reason
Demo retired, and
yeah, they all like retired and stopped making videos, and then the only one we
Anime
had
Man
left
pivoted.
was like, if we're being honest, basically like in vibe, not like in terms of actual content, but in terms of the vibe of the content, we just had anime game theory left, and it's kind of doomed in the public's eyes, I think, when that's all you have.
Yeah. But it's so sad because it's right around that time when anime actually broke into the mainstream, and it's become so accepted now, and you have all these popular people, and it's so social. It feels so socially acceptable now. It feels like a natural thing. Whereas I'm actually working on something that I can't share too much about with for my work for Discotech. That's not like a licensing thing. It's like a creative project. About the rise of this stuff and how much like how we got to where we were, and it was such an uphill battle that they, for the first couple of years of this company's life, when they were getting started, in every news outlet they had to put in parentheses anime parentheses pronounced Annie May, because they would get business partners and customers and whatever, they'd all just go, "What is an anime?"
That's correct. Yeah.
That it's you've no like it is. It was the and it's not. That's not even the worst part. It's not even like the worst that. But I'm not. I'll save it. But it's the sheer wall, the cliff that they had to scale and were willing to scale because they saw that this stuff was like worth it. It's just such a fucking crazy story and like a business story, and oh my god, I'm so excited to be working on it and sharing it, and some time in the future, if it ever happens, if it gets off the ground. But yeah, it is insane how popular it has gotten and mainstream and accepted. You have fucking Philip DeFranco tweeting, "I just started One Piece now that because I really liked the live action."
No, it
and like he's watching Kaizoku fan subs. Like, what?
it's crazy. It really is. Like, and I feel like it went from being so slow. You know what I mean? Like, as someone who was largely online even before I was like super into anime, you know, it's not like I never knew what it was.
Of course.
And like, you know, as a kid, like there was like Naruto and shit and Pokemon, obviously, that everyone loves. But I think it was interesting seeing, like, especially as people get older and they get more socially aware about things, right? It was like nobody was openly talking about watching anime. And even like when I graduated high school, like nobody was still talking about it. Like, you know, it was like I talked about anime with people in high school, but it was only like my friends, and we were like nerds. We're the only ones who were like watching anime and talking about stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
and
like
it's
a
crazy to
select
see it
group of people.
completely change. And I do think that like part of that is like the shows that are as popular have changed as the like what people are like as
I can agree with that.
like I think that there are shows that were popular or that like okay, a great example are like the fucking Doga Kobo shows. Cuz Doga Kobo has not fucking changed what they do at all. They still make the
Until
same
Oshinoko.
That's true, but I think for the like they still made a lot of those same like cute girl shows. We watched like every single fucking one of them on the Weeb Club.
Yeah.
And they were not changing what they did. But like around that time you were talking about where it was like the peak of anime YouTube and it was the peak of the certain, you know, Anitubers was when their shows were like peaking and like Mal and like the seasons. You know what I mean? Everyone was watching fucking like New Game and like Gabriel Dropout and those, and now people don't fucking watch the Doga Kobo cute girl shows. And I think it's just because, like, as tastes change is, like, what gets big changes. And I don't think it's something that is, like, changed now. Because I think, like, honestly, like, the tastes now feel, like, almost closer to, like, what you think about when you talk about, like, what people watched in, like, the 90s. Outside of, obviously, people have more choice now versus, you know, you just watch whatever you could get your hands on. But just, you know what I mean, in terms of it mostly being the shonen or action or, you know.
It's so funny how much of a bone to pick the Anime Encyclopedia had with harem anime. Just because of the sheer amount that they were surrounded by at that time in like 2001 or 2015, and now it's you still get harem anime, but it's not a fucking problem. Like no one complains that like this is a harem. Like no one gives a shit. It's really funny. Yeah, it's just the taste, like you're saying. Yeah, tastes are changing, and it is certain like tastemakers, and by tastemakers I mean like certain shows that are like, we like this one. You should watch Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, exactly. The shows that people give
yeah.
to their friends when they recommend them is what's changed.
Yeah, because at this point you don't have to do that for friends because everyone already watches anime.
Yeah. So everyone's just watching like the new
fucking
stuff.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah, is that like nowadays you can just tell people what like I think we consider as all just like newer seasonal shows, or at least like in my brain I still do, right? Like it feels like nowadays like I'd imagine someone telling their friend like, you know, a bunch of shows to watch, he would say like, "Oh, watch you know, Jujutsu Kaisen and, you know, Kimetsu and like My Hero Academia and like Vinland and you know what I mean? Like all these like other things." And Attack on Titan, and is never gonna fucking bring up like fucking Gurren Lagann or Cowboy Bebop or like Madoka Magica, Steins Gate,
Baccano, Kaiji, like all these shows.
Baccano,
Hell no, Kaiji. If you bring up Kaiji, they'd be fucking noses. What? Although they will love it. They would. Without fail. It's like every time I suggest Kaiji and someone actually watches it, they're like, "Bro, that was so good."
It's just like, the goat. He just the way he writes his fucking stories, you just can't put it down. He's the master at making you just need to know exactly what's gonna happen next and not be able to leave like the very edge of your seat for.
And he just got so much, and it's so cool how much better he got at characters. Not that there weren't good characters in Kaiji at the beginning, but it really felt it was just Kaiji and a bunch of bad guys. I used to brag. I remember like first starting Kaiji, I was like, "There's no good guys. It's just Kaiji, and he's a chip bum. Everyone else is a bad guy, like an antagonist towards Kaiji in some way. If not, like kind of like some kind of pusher, like not a long-term friend like Chang and Mario would be."
And it took
You
like
know, like
20,
ever
30 years. So
Yeah, it wasn't until they got Kaiji, you know, it wasn't until they had Kaiji sit down and not actually participate in a game, so he didn't have to have any like slant or beef against any of them. He could just observe them. That was actually quite a smart play from Fukumoto, I think. I haven't reread Part 4 in forever, but I bet that's fucking wild to reread now.
I
Like,
love
no,
being
having
able to
known
tell it.
like knowing the characters
It's
now.
really cool going back because I reread everything during Part 6's run, and I think
Yeah.
parts 3 through 5 all is like really enhanced when you're looking at it through the lens of like, because I especially look at that section of the story. It is just about friendship. It is just about like Kaiji is someone who is going into these gambles and he's trusting people. He's trusting these people that he has a bond with unconditionally, and they let him down. But he's still like willing to trust. And then Chang and Mario are trusting the person that they have a bond with, and he lets them down. But then because the three of them are all able to trust each other in the final game, they win. And like that's what happens. And then
and at the same time, it's about the main antagonist of those three parts, like the recurring one for all three of them. He's kind of the antithesis of friendship, and that's ultimately what he needs. And that's just, it breaks me down every fucking time. That stretch of the show where he realizes he's lonely and needs a friend, and it's like, oh.
The fact that like him and Kaiji are so interesting just because it's like they're so similar but so like the fact that Kaiji understands him the most. Like Kaiji's the closest thing he has to a friend, and he's trying to say,
and he's actually like talking to him as a friend in that last hand. Like,
and then Kazi is like, but he wants to be Kaiji's equal. He doesn't want to be looked down on, so he has to do it. Like, oh my god, it's so good.
I can't
so
with that fucking one poker, dude. It's so peak. It's actual peak. I know. I like gassing. Like Critical and Alexander have been reading Naruto live, reading the manga, and it's really fun seeing them interact. Like see these moments for the first time. Like just today. Crit was reading the Obito reveal and all of that flashback and everything, and it is really fun to gas him like, this is peak, this is raw, right? Like because it's great. And then just the baffling of like, can you imagine that people were pissed reading this because they were like, it's too obvious. Like, oh my god. So funny.
Yeah, and I think it just
egg on your face.
It goes back to that like what we were talking about earlier with One Piece, where like I will always talk about this because it is so real. People's brains get rotted when they have to consume the story just so spread out. Because and like I kind of get it, because like if it took me 4 years of like to get through the war in like small little chunks, I would probably be fucking over it too. And there would be a point where I'd be like, just fucking reveal that this guy is fucking Obito already. I'm over it. And then I have 2 more years before they get to the reveal. So, like, part of me gets it. But then also it's like, bro, just, like, get over yourself, reread it, and realize that, like, shit goes bonkers crazy, you know?
And it was all there. It wasn't just, like, a fucking red herring and Kishi was trying to make you mad or something. He was trying to make you feel smart for assuming the exact right answer. It was right there in the name. You moron.
I pissed off one of my friends. Not like I lightly. Like I still talk to this friend too, but I knew him as he was a coworker. And we talked about One Piece and Naruto. And I remember being like because that was during like while it was building up to that reveal and when it happened. And I remember hearing just the most whack ass theories about like, no, it's not, because like with these friends, it wasn't like, oh, it's obviously Obito. It's like it's because it's obvious because of all the theory crafting, and like that was the one that just made the most sense by like far. The only wrinkle was when he showed off the coffin, and it was like because there was also like, oh, maybe it's Madara, and that's what so it's like that was the only wrinkle in it. But then like once that got cleared up, it's like, okay, it's fucking Obito, right? And like because I
you
think
can feel the story knows that. Like once it's like, nope, it was not Madara.
Like just the fact that he's got the mask that covers the one eye that Obito still has.
The other side,
right?
Yeah, and then especially then when it's like, oh, and his power is secretly related to Kakashi's power. I wonder. It's like, okay, come on.
That was great. It's still so well executed. Even if you know that it's him. I knew that it was him the whole time. I didn't know that that's how they revealed it, and that whole process. And of course, with Kishi, the chapter of the reveal, that like the end of the last chapter is like, who are you? and the first page it just gives it to you, and the name of the chapter is the reveal, and you know it, you know, like that. And there's no dialogue that whole chapter. Flawless, absolutely flawless. And
Yeah,
the
I'm.
fucking anime did a great job, man.
Speaking of Naruto, I need to Boruto pill you because like
Oh, do
I
it.
know I know you haven't watched it yet or started it. Do you have any inclination to do so?
Not necessarily. I hear very
God,
funny. I hear very funny things about it.
um,
Um,
I look. People are fucking stupid about Boruto for the same reason they're always stupid about any ongoing thing. Plus the added
sure.
cynicism of like it's just they're continuing it. But my stance on Boruto is like you even pointed out in one of the old Piss Pirates where it's like, oh, it makes sense for Naruto to have a son. Like Naruto is
Yeah.
about cyclical
Yeah.
conflicts, and Naruto and Sasuke are characters who like their defining tragedy isn't war, it's peace, right? Like Naruto
Mhm.
was made into a weapon for a biological weapon to preserve peace. The Uchihas were killed for peace, so it makes sense that like why not explore the peace that Naruto creates in that regard? Like there's
I
still
yeah.
marginalized. He didn't fix everything in the world, you know.
I'm
Um,
certainly open to a continuation. It's just my concern where it's like it's like trying to make a sequel to the Lord of the Rings. You
mhm.
know, it's
um,
like I get making a sequel to The Hobbit. That's a neat story, and there's an opening there to kind of expand it into making something much bigger than it was initially. If Naruto was a really good 15 volume story, then it's like, yeah, making kind of a sequel and continuing and making it much grander. That's awesome. But like it is to me, it's like making a sequel to Lord of the Rings. It's like
because
I don't think you do that.
we'll see. So my stance. So I have not watched the anime yet. I've seen some of it for sure.
Yeah.
Like before I rewatched Boruto, like because I'd watched like 80 episodes of Boruto and then I just put it down. And before I rewatched it, before I rewatched those parts and then caught up, I reread the manga and I also watched some anime stuff like that figured would or like there was one arc with like a light
Like the water
like a
village, like the village of the rain or
that
whatever.
tie yeah like in the Boruto there's a character who says Naruto killed her dad and I
Yeah,
was like what the
exactly.
fuck
Yeah,
and I look it
right.
up and it's like that's an anime original arc so I watched that and but like so I've seen it but like one of the things like is knowing that I think you're the only person I know who's watched all of the anime hasn't read the manga and also just fucking loves Naruto, right?
Really,
um
I'm a rarity in that case. That's incredible.
Apparently like I don't like I think like I think my brother has watched at least most of it if not all of it but I don't know but he does
It's
like
true.
I mean I and he
It is
likes
true
it
that my
but
roommates are huge Naruto fans that they have not watched the whole anime because they
Most
eventually at some point they moved to the manga.
the common take is just so anti the war. I feel like that most
Yeah.
people will like Naruto is a series that most people like love to just talk about it falling off, which like even if you like pain more than the war,
Ugh,
like I can
I know.
agree, but
No, I agree with you.
I can
that
still
it
like
doesn't fall off.
understand
It
like
does
I
not
guess
fall off.
liking it more, but saying that like it fell off is so crazy to me because it's like similar to like when people say like One Piece fell off, where it's like everything
Ah.
that you like about the series at the beginning is still there a 1,000 chapters later, so I have no idea what you could be missing.
Mhm.
Like other than just the story being incomplete, like it just doesn't make sense to me. I really don't.
Going back and forth, I agree with what you're saying that like you can be sympathetic to people who are caught up and are in that cycle and in that like kind of drudgery. And my roommate was saying how like because he caught up with me the same time we actually started One Piece together and then yeah, and he mentioned to me he's like yeah I probably would have fallen off or grown cynical towards One Piece if we caught up during Dressrosa or Whole Cake. Wano, I think, would have been okay because if at least that is more of a culmination of what started in Punk Hazard. But I can understand, especially for Dressrosa and Whole Cake, where especially Whole Cake feels like a diversion. It does feel like we were supposed to go to fucking Wano, but why are we going over here? And
Yeah.
like why it has this whole expansion, whatever. I can understand from that angle, although I'm very happy he did that because we would have never gone there otherwise. Because it was important that for the pace of the story, that the main operation was to kill one of the Yonko, and in so doing, kind of knocks down a bunch of other dominoes along the way. and to take out both Big Mom and Kaido in one swoop, so that the final saga could be a stage set for what Oda intended as the final four emperors. You know, it just makes complete it just makes complete sense, and I like that what he does with everything in there. But I can understand at the time, and I don't think we're having that burnout right now, because he said it was the final saga, and obviously the way he's been doing it these past few months of occasionally kind of cutting away and having a lot of established characters, like all of that, like not seeing the strong hands for a long time was incredible. So he's been doing a good job, don't get me wrong. But it does feel like he hasn't been inventing a ton of character, doing like indulging in the thing he likes doing the most, which is creating new characters. He hasn't been doing that as much. He made only 6 Vegapunks. Only 6.
7 total.
7. You're right. I'm sorry. 7. No, it's like 6 plus the cell. Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but then even then, like, he just made like those 9 vice admirals or whatever. The vice admirals.
Oh right. Yeah.
Like
well, I think some of them are, well, at least 1 or 2 of them we've seen before.
Yes,
maybe,
they're established,
but,
stored, right? But exactly, it's like that. Or that one moment when Sabo is returning from where he was, and you meet their vice captains, and it's like, who are these fuckers? Like, what? Yeah, it's like shit like that. But otherwise, he's been really focusing on like characters he's already made. What was I saying about that? But then, so it hasn't been as much of a burn. But yeah, I agree, especially with the way theories go. And I used to, you heard me on Piss Pyres. I was such I clown on theorists, like theory crafting. I didn't really like it or believe in it really. And then I find myself making fucking One Piece theories.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun, and it's like, fuck.
Well, I'm perfectly fine with theory crafting in itself. It's the attitude people have regarding it, where it's like the story needs to do this or it's bad, which is just so
exactly.
I did a video on where I caught up to Hunter. I reread and caught up to Hunter x Hunter, and I made a theory expecting like, here's what I think is going to happen in like maybe the short term or the midterm and the long term. And I reached a little far in some cases, but like I preface it, or I definitely say in the video where it's like, I just want to know how it happens. Like, I'm not holding the story to this. I just want to see what happens. And because generally what I find is that when my expectations are subverted, it's better. Like the story is better for what I
and oftentimes, especially with One Piece, he makes a choice that makes you go like, of course, that's what
it was
he
always
does.
going to be this.
Right.
No, I agree. I think it's the difference between theory crafting and expectation setting, right? Like, obviously, there's nothing wrong with watching something and being like, this is what I think could happen. This is what makes sense with how I think the themes are playing out and how the story's going and everything. But the problem becomes if someone says, I think that this is how it has to go, and if it doesn't go like this, I feel cheated, and the story's not doing what it told me it was going to do.
The One Piece is with Gaiman, and Luffy has to kill him for it at the end. That's just how it's gonna go. But I say all this to preface that I did want to share my 2 One Piece theories, and this is exclusive because I was gonna share them on Piss Pirates, and then Piss Pirates, we take a long time, and but also we're in a really awkward place. And I don't think Jack would mind me sharing this because it's like, he has a lot of complicated feelings about the One Piece live action. He has to he has to go find Jesus. He has to figure out how he feels about it. He's already like rewatched it like 3 times to really be like,
wow.
He feels like he's taking crazy pills about everyone liking it, and he's like, no, it's bad. And so the next time we said we wanted a guest, but now we're at this conundrum where like, who do we get that we then don't just make it about the live action the entire time, because we're on kind of opposite ends of that conversation. So it's like he kind of has to figure out the video that he's making a video about it, so he's working on that, and I think from there that we'll figure that out. But so I don't know when the next episode we'll record, but so I'll just share the 2 theories I had. One of them is about Dragon.
Okay. I
shouldn't have said that because that spoils it. But the way I talk about it, and one of them is I won't say who that character is.
I love that idea that you just say who it's about, but then like the theory is the exact opposite, where it's like, who is this mysterious character that we've been led to believe is someone, and you build up the whole case.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Right, I was
funny.
gonna, no, that was, it's like, oops, because I fucking wrote it in my notes, and so it's like dragon and this person theories. I was like, fuck. No, I guess I'll just crack it and then I'll explain it afterwards. Fuck the buildup, I guess. The synapses in my brain just kind of connected one day, thinking, what if dragon was rocks?
Oh.
Because I was watching so I'll go from the beginning of how I figured this out, of how I came to this. I was just watching someone else watching a video of like a One Piece theory or something, and they were discussing rocks, and I saw that it was recalled to me that the fucking fleet admiral that was talking about him, the former fleet admiral, goat guy, Buddha, I forget it.
Sengoku,
Sorry, Sengoku, yeah. He was saying how like Rocks was treated not just as a pirate but as a terrorist, because he was very notably against the celestial dragons as much as he was against, like, being a crazy ass pirate. And then it shows his silhouette, and he's noticeably regular sized compared to Whitebeard and Kaido and Big Mom. And then he just has like this really wild spiky hair, and then it just was like, oh my god. And it just I just visualized dragon, and then I looked up their ages, and dragon would be about 17 during the God Valley incident, which is Luffy's,
that's where I was going, where it's like,
which is Luffy's age.
I think.
It is Luffy's age, and he is a D. Rocks is also a D.
Interesting.
And so it's sort of like it could be something where,
well, the issue with
why
that
did they
is
break?
that,
Why did they break up, and him kind of starting a different path as the revolutionaries?
Well, because I'm just on the wiki right now, and so if Dragon was 17 when the God Valley incident happened, that means he was 11 when the Rocks Pirates were formed. So
I didn't know that would happen 6 years
okay.
later. That's interesting.
No, before. Yeah, no, because it says 38 years before the present was the God's Valley incident. Over 44 years ago, Rocks and several other pirates formed the Rocks Pirates, basically. So
wow, it's interesting because like the Kaido flashback really made it seem so immediate that like the Rocks Pirates formed, where like Whitebeard asked Kaido to join them, and then it felt like immediately afterwards the God Valley incident happened. And to me, I don't think it was confirmed what happened there. Obviously, not didn't confirm, but like it seems to me that Kaido just left. He just fucking like, I don't really care, and he just fucking walked off. That's my presumption.
I haven't really seen how the anime handles it. Like, I've scrubbed through some footage, but I didn't really watch it.
They don't show it,
no.
obviously. They don't show. All they do is just sort of like him being really disinterested. It's very faithful, because they show him really disinterested when he's like, "Hey, you should come outside. Rocks wants you, whatever." And then the next shot is sort of like back on Hachino's, and they're like, "Did you fucking hear that they broke up? What the fuck?" And I don't know. There's something about that. I was like, yeah, if he's never been beaten before, I assume that he just kind of didn't have that much attachment to begin with, because he was just kind of asked to join, and he's like, I don't really have much else going on right now, so whatever.
No, they did talk about how the Rocks Pirates are very kind of like they're an alliance, but they don't like, they were just kind of independent operatives under the same flag for the most part, and they did happen to work together at like especially God's Valley.
Right. Yeah. So well,
okay.
or rather didn't work together. They did not have the chemistry to make it work, because it is sort of like, how the fuck does Garp and Roger beat all of those guys? I don't think they do. I think something else happened that was just like, it just kind of fizzled out, and Roger and Garp were just kind of emerged the victors,
Maybe, yeah, because I feel like we'll definitely get, because I know people have been talking about like the Kaido flashback not being what people were hoping for, when it's like, you even pointed out,
they were
it's like
expecting Big Mom. They were expecting the fucking Big Mom thing, but that flashback
the villains
for Big
getting
Mom,
flashbacks is a post time skip thing. Like this is like, what's Walpole's flashback? Like, you brought that up, and it's like, it's absolutely true. Thank you. But it's like,
and I thought about this more, because now that I've seen the Kaido one, since I talked about that at the time, now that I've seen the Kaido one, it's like we get plenty of Kaido. We get so much of his personality and philosophy in the fight itself. It's peppered throughout. Like, how did he meet King? How did he meet Big Mom? Except, there's little bits like that throughout it. And the reason Big Mom's was as big as it was because there was a lot of answers that it had to give. of
Mhm.
why she has this island when her power is soul soap fruit. Who is this person in the picture? And why does she have the thoughts that she does about her like wanting no racism, whatever?
Yeah,
There's just so
equality
many.
and
There's so
yes.
many bullet points that it has to hit that it makes sense that it was a lot more fleshed out. But Kaido really is that simple. He doesn't
Right.
have that much to him. So all you
And he
have is
also
this
just
like, yeah,
got
I grew
like
up, I was
yeah.
strong, I was a small guy, and there was a big guy, and there was a bigger guy. And it's like, yes, that is all he has. That is his whole thing.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
we
know.
saw like he was there. Like we got notable stuff in the Odin flashback with him, like the way, like
Yeah.
how he treated Momonosuke, and the way he like sort of like his whole thing where he killed Higurashi Kurozumi for interfering with the Odin, his fight against Odin, and like we
Yeah.
got characterization for him there.
I
You mentioned the
completely
King
understand him
flashback.
as a
Like, there's
character. I
so
don't need a
many-
flashback.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. So were you gonna get your other theory?
Yeah, so the other one. It was just it kind of sprung from watching your video about Zoro and not hitting a woman. I love that
Yes.
video. Can't believe that, because for some reason I just never connected that with Zoro at all, of how much of a significant roadblock that is, and it's an actual thing that he has to solve. This is beyond,
and that video
beyond being
the King fight too, where it like drives
Yeah.
home like where Kuina's in a flashback there, because it's like he needs to overcome like death, and it's like
Yeah.
it's all there. So yeah.
Oh yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh sure. And so to me, what that left me thinking was, gosh, how are they supposed to resolve all of this Kuina stuff and his stuff with Mihawk and having this fight with Mihawk? How can you do both? And I will tell you, I never, even when I first watched One Piece, that was one of the few things I actually was not really spoiled to, is like his flashback, and it's like, oh no, Kuina died from falling down the stairs, and I was like, I don't buy that.
Okay.
I don't believe that for a fucking second. There's no way. Like, yes, there's a panel of her body under like whatever, sees her body at a funeral, whatever. I don't buy that she's dead.
Okay.
And so it's how do we have him solve this thing with Kuina and Mihawk? Unless
Are you trying to fucking imply that Kuina is Mihawk? Hold up.
That would be fucking crazy.
It doesn't make sense because the ages
No.
don't work.
No,
Because
it
the
doesn't at
ages
all.
don't work. But there are at least two characters that can age up the character.
I would
mean,
believe
and-
Oda to find a way.
And Ivankov is a thing.
I mean, at least I figured you like saying Tashigi makes sense, because people have had that theory since
Sure,
like early on in
Tashiki's gonna
One
have something
Piece.
with the cloning. I get, yeah. There's probably to that
Or,
too. That's
like-
probably
or
even more
just-
likely.
Yeah, or like
But
she got
how do you do-
amnesia and.
But how do you do both? How do you just do both? I think that would be the most insane, out of pocket, like peak thing ever.
I would love if he
Yeah,
did just do something to just blow my fucking mind. Just that, like, I
Yeah,
would never
you're
in a
like,
million
I love
years
it.
be
You
ready
I
for
can't
love
be
it.
serious. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I
mean,
will
it's
say
not-
though
it's-
that
it's on the fucking level of like, oh, he never climbed stairs ever in the whole show, and I was like,
I mean,
oh, for fuck's sake.
or at the very least, he has a strong aversion to them, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
even if yeah. So that's great. I love it.
Can't
So
believe
speaking of
that.
One Piece theories, I guess to end the little segment, do you want to hear my old Wano theory I had like back during Whole Cake for how I thought shit was gonna go down? Because looking back on
Yeah.
it is dumb as hell. I thought that Kaido, because like they had made such a big deal of Kaido being immortal, right? And then like the only other time in my head that like immortality had really been brought up was like the Law stuff. So
Yes.
I thought
Ape,
that
Ape.
like Law was gonna use his devil fruit somehow to like give up his life,
I remember
not
this
to like
theory now.
yes, not to
Mm.
like give someone immortality, but to take Kaido's away so that Luffy could beat his ass. And that would be like how
Huh.
Law would do that. And so that then by doing that, like when he did that, he would be giving his dreams Like, you know, he'd be pushing them onto Luffy, and then the Heart Pirates would just join up with the fleet. Is what I thought was gonna happen. So that was like my
Wow,
theory
like, so
for
Law making that
years
sacrifice.
as to what I thought, as to how I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah,
But-
that is a neat idea. It's under the presumption that the Ape Ape can do that of taking.
Yeah,
place
yeah.
on
I mean,
the
obviously, yeah.
mortality.
It's not how it went out at all.
Right.
But that was just like in
No,
my
yeah,
brain. I was
that
like,
is
that's
that is cool because that would also actually give him something functional.
yeah, and
for
it
the
would be
thing that
like
he started. It was his plan.
yeah, and it's also him like repaying the debt from Dressrosa and
yeah.
yeah.
We mentioned Dressrosa. It's like I do think that his plan initially to take down a Yonko, once Dressrosa happened and he beat Doflamingo, which was not in his consideration or like he didn't even think that was a possibility. I think once that happened for him, he's like, well, all right. Yeah, I mean, cool. We can kill Kai. Yeah, do all this stuff. That's fine. But yeah, I don't think he really made that, samurai Zou pirate alliance, right? It was kind of like Luffy inherited that initial plan, that momentum, because they just so happened to meet up with Kinemon at the time. But it is just funny how they had the same sort of initial plan. It's like, well, we have this kid that they say they're from Wano or whatever. We could drop them off there too. Sure. And then they kind of end up being the ones that they're fighting for that mission.
Yeah, like
and they kind of solve Law's actual problem wasn't with Kaido, it was with Doflamingo. But for some reason, he kind of had it in his head that he could sooner beat Kaido than Doflamingo, which is really weird and interesting.
Or more that because I feel like he didn't even so I think Sanji even pointed out to him that he didn't recognize his obsession with Doflamingo, because Doflamingo's whole thing was control, and Law is similar to him, and so he was trying to think that he was in control, but he had his own hatred and he was being manipulated and didn't even recognize it. So and then of course of course he promised yeah, we're gonna beat Kaido, and it's well, I guess we gotta beat Kaido now. Right, so,
right. Yeah, it just he just was really quiet after Dressrosa, where he's like, yeah, I'll meet you at Wano. Yep. Was he even at Zou? He was at Zou, wasn't he? Yes, he was, because he geeks out, because he geeks out at Raizo with everyone else. He's like, show me Shadow Clone Jutsu.
He's an Naruto fan, big fan.
Yeah. It's like, all boys love ninjas, and I think that am I wrong that that chapter came out around the time that Naruto finished?
There's actually a
I think
that was,
it might have.
No. There was
I think it's during that arc is when the cover page of the with it Naruto's in is. I think it's during Zou. I could be wrong.
I feel like I remember.
It was
during
Dressrosa. Yeah,
really
766. Yeah,
okay.
766 was during Dressrosa. So that was yes.
In the manga.
No, I'm looking at the cover page right now. It said, in the manga it was chapter 766, which was during
it
was
Dressrosa.
past the halfway point of Dressrosa, and that's the one that's got Naruto on it. Nami's got the Konoha symbols on her dress.
Yeah,
so,
okay, that's cool.
Which is
cool.
because Naruto ended that.
And then right, and then
so.
it makes it does still kind of make sense with the arc afterwards, because Oda had probably already completely planned out Dressrosa by that point, that he could include a ninja character in the next arc kind of deal and have everyone geek out over that. And he's like, you should have had it like this, where he goes, nin, nin, nin. It's just so good.
I also just speaking of Law being a fucking nerd, when he's talking about
the fucking
German
Black
tech,
Ranger shit. Yeah.
Oh
my god, so good. Oh,
silly
food.
guy.
Food. I love food.
Boy.
Fucking I did want to mention with also with One Piece things. I wanted to just say it on record, I guess, but that I love this shit so much that I keep thinking of right now. I've just been doing 2 streams a week trying to finish the encyclopedia, and I have a couple other long-term projects in mind for other things, comparing the dub to a sub of an anime line by line and quantitatively proving that the dub is better than the sub.
Okay.
And that would be for a movie, because doing that for a
TV show
would be fucking stupid and ridiculous and dumb. But it was just because I love that the particular movie is Nausicaa, and I've seen that movie 40 times. So I would be
okay.
I just would be cool with doing that, I guess. But then I've been wanting to do a manga to anime comparison, a really proper one, really going by pages and really checking like what like kind of seeing and how much of it's panel for panel or like what they change and kind of proving that the anime is better than the manga for Ashino Joe mainly because again that's like my all-time and I have a very I have the entire manga of Joe physically.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, so I can really just like I don't have to finagle with revert flipped scans or poor quality whatever.
That's for the early volumes, yeah. Like the later ones are perfectly good, but the early ones
fine.
are not.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah. Oh, that yeah. But even just being able to like, because it's early manga, they don't have chapters really. They didn't really release like chapter this. They don't delineate. A lot
Or at
of them
least
they're
I don't know
collected
if that's
in
because it's an early. That might just because it was I think it's also a
because it's
re-release.
early.
Like it's not the original one, so it might have changed just how the I don't know.
Well, it's because I think it's because there just wasn't. I mean, Nausicaa's not like that either because I'm pretty sure Nausicaa was released monthly in chapters,
Okay.
but it's compiled into 7 volumes, and you read the volumes, and you can't even tell. You might be able to tell in little places here and there, but there's very little ways of knowing, and that's how you realize like with the digital release of Joe, right? They just put out volumes. They don't even give you like chapters. Yeah. It's just volume by volume. But not that makes much of a difference. It's just more of like the page count and flipping it and like being able to kind of see what the artist intended with the 2-page spread, or with the panel layout between 2 pages, even if it's not like a connected spread or anything like that. But with One Piece, having these stream ideas like, oh, I want to do more long-term projects just because I like that idea. And then I'm just watching One Piece and I have like 4 different ideas where I would just kind of go through rewatching all of One Piece and then I'm like, I could do all 4 of these simultaneously. It's because I can't pick. I can't choose one. Which is fucking foolhardy, and I don't know if I'll ever do it, but it's I did write them and wanted to share them. I did mention them on Piss Pirates at least. But it's 10,000 things I like about One Piece. Because I wanted to just kind of give a quantitative list of like everything that I enjoy and like about it, like little points like remember when Buggy turns into a car, shit like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed about One Piece from an osmosis perspective was I knew the big moments, I knew the big points, but One Piece is so good because of all of the moments and small little bits, even the things we were sharing just now about like with Law and whatever. I probably would have never been spoiled to that because it's such a minor gag thing. It's not like an overarching big defining character thing or whatever. And it's not the thing that always gets shared. It feels like, with publicity with One Piece, they always mentioned Ace's death. They always mentioned Vivi, the leaving Vivi at the end of Alabasta. They always mentioned I Want to Live. They always mentioned Help Me. There's the same beats. There's always the same beats. And it makes you feel like that's all that One Piece is. And it's absolutely not the truth, right?
Yeah.
So 10,000 is really a low ball because that's just 10 things per episode, less than 10 things per episode because it's over 1,000 episodes by now. So, right? So that wouldn't be that difficult. Obviously, there would be you can't do repeats and you could have certain other stipulations, but I would love to do that. Just make a list like that. So there was a video I made about Guts' theme where I don't really had ever seen anyone do this, where I went through the whole 1997 TV series looking for the instances where they use that OST to kind of connect them together of like, here's all the times that they use that as a thematic, what does this track represent, and thematically what is it used for by using what it uses in the show and not just what it makes you feel. I really like that video, and I feel like One Piece is the first video idea I had for One Piece in general, and this wouldn't be like a live stream project, is just talking about the sound of One Piece, and that is why the manga is like, I'm collecting it now. I own the first 10 volumes. I've been reading it, and I'm obviously been reading it weekly, but it cannot replace the anime for me. It's just never going to happen, no matter the pacing, prop, whatever, anything. it just doesn't have the voice actors. It doesn't have the soundtrack. I don't care if you can just play the soundtrack on YouTube. It's not scored
No, it's not
appropriately. You
the
can't
same.
you
No,
can't
yeah.
just play the random whatever. And it doesn't have Toei's sound bank of like the teleports behind you noise. Like we fucking geeked out at like Baratier when Sanji teleports behind a guy and it's just like like shit like that. And
Oh,
the
because I've started watching it too. Like in episode like 2, they zoom in on Zoro and there's like a guitar riff and it's like it's
Yeah.
so funny.
yeah, and they have really good at attention to detail at usually giving the Foley for people's footsteps. It is so often that you will hear people's footsteps in One Piece, and there's something kind of tactile and engaging about that, and the way that the sound that they make when they jump or fight, an impact punch, it's all Toei sound bank with like Dragon Ball Z sound effects, and it's just so impactful and memorable and adds to the experience. I don't think the onomatopoeia, as iconic as it is in the manga, it doesn't replicate it for me in the way that the actual sounds do. So the sound of One Piece is really something I wanted to make like a dedicated video on, and focusing on each of those aspects. That would probably be the first, if not only, main channel video I ever make of One Piece if I was to do one until the story's over. Because I don't want to make I know I more power to you, Crafts, for making those videos at the time that you did. I just don't have the confidence of doing that.
I mean,
want to
a lot
see
of
the
it
story.
comes from
I want to see
like,
the end of it.
I've been with this story for so long, and like the fact that it's divided into arcs, like with my Chopper video, I very deliberately like didn't mention anything outside of that arc because I kind of realized it's like even the Brook one, I mentioned like the Moria bit in Wano because I really love that Moria is like one of the only characters in the entire series next to Luffy who will just like charge into an emperor's territory for his friend. Like I really love that. But like, and I bring that up in the Brook video, in the Thriller Bark one. So yeah, but it's like and
very narrow and focused.
And I've been wrong. Like I think I did rewatch the Zoro Sanji one, and one thing like the way I framed the Sanji thing with Sanji, Nami, and Khalifa is more accurate to the Robin and Black Maria stuff more so than the way like it's still like the
it is
being,
cool.
Like, Sanji's
it is cool that
willingness.
moment didn't even happen, and you were able to kind of peg his character that well. And I'm like that. I think that still fits. It does fit more. It does fit better for what you're talking about.
Sure.
But still
honestly, and one of my favorite ones is actually like literally like within a week I did the Justice video, and there and like within a week of that a chapter came out. It was the one with like Garp down on Fishman Island after the reverie, and he mentioned two things that fit so perfectly with that video. Where one, he mentioned like how the alliances of kings is actually kind of fucky and there's betrayal and it's not good, which matches what I was talking about in the Justice video about like Big Mom emulating the structure of the world government, and like the pirates and them not being that different. And then he also said like, it's all fine if it's for peace, but like, Garp valuing peace was another thing I talked about in that video. So just like I did that video, and then like immediately a chapter came out that just added to the video. I was like, well, I just fucking hit it on the fucking nose here, didn't I? I get that feeling. So
and I'm just like reading, and I'm just watching that video now with the perspective of the recent few chapters we had, where people are making the observation like, all three original admirals are relevant again. Like all three of them are doing something and are having major fights and moments and stuff. And it's like, what does this mean for their character and stuff? I think it's really promising and interesting. But yeah, I really want to have the whole story in mind when I then go through all these videos from the beginning and everything. Sorry, you can go.
I was just I feel like especially at this point it's almost like I especially felt it after, because I reread all of One Piece like last summer, and there's no shot I'm doing it again before it's done, because like I know I'm gonna go through One Piece again obviously when it's done, and I know the ending and I know what the One Piece is, because I'm sure it'll completely change how I look at so many parts of One Piece. But like
Gaiman's gonna matter.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna go through it in 2 years and then 3 years later do it again. Like at this point, like I feel like it's just you're locked in until it's done. And then you can go back, but it would be too much, because like especially watching it, you'd watch the 1,000 episodes and then watch it again in another 5 years. Like it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I was thinking the pace I'd do this is like when the manga finishes, I'll restart the anime.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because by the time if I'm watching it this meticulously, keeping track of like So the OST thing, I wanted to do that not just with one track, but obviously not every fucking track, because there's plenty of tracks that I don't necessarily have an attachment for. But I definitely want to know every time the Odin's ramen shop or something like that. I think that's the track
The
for
Golden Odin theme, which is just
yeah,
amazing coincidence.
The piano track, that
Yeah,
that like sad one. It's like certain
yes.
instrumentals like that. I would want to like note that like, oh, they used that in this episode in this scene, and just coalesce collect those together and like choose a couple of them, and like I'm gonna keep track of these tracks and how often and when they use them, basically. And then if there's certain scenes where they use a certain track, I don't know, I don't know. I feel like I would try to track as many as possible, just so that there isn't an instance where it's like, oh, I should have tracked that one from the beginning or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, see, I know you have other stuff but there's actually a website called One Piece Tracklist that actually lists out every soundtrack in every episode.
Oh, thank God.
There are
okay,
some,
so never mind.
especially for recent ones, that like there's unreleased track. So, but that's like for the ones you're looking for, you're gonna know exactly what it's called. So I'll link it to you real quick just so you have it.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Because I was like, you're talking about.
I was wondering. It's like there's got to be someone that's done this, right?
Yeah, because I specifically had it because like there'd be times where like the times where I use clips in the videos and they have music, I'll want to like match the music. But it's like it's like I don't know the tracks. I don't like I have the soundtrack, but I don't necessarily like listen to or memorize that. And so it's I'm just so glad this exists, so I don't have to like just click through it. Just like listen to every sound. Like, is this the one? No.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll do things where like the one track actually has two songs on it, and it's like so I have to listen to both halves of it to make sure.
Wow,
I'm glad this exists.
No, right. That's so nice. Yeah. So that's fantastic. I don't have to do that. Fantastic. And another thing that like I can probably circumvent this and not necessarily do the hard work myself, but I still want to, is I do really want to do a manga to anime comparison. Obviously, the wiki every episode has obviously bullet points of like things they've probably changed and things they added and everything. But I think it's a difference to like experience that yourself, because there was such a visceral reaction I had reading the manga and realizing that Zeph ate his foot instead of losing his foot.
No, especially
anime.
Early on, they cut down there's a like the Morgan ordering his men to kill him themselves and then putting the guns to their head, or like Zoro slashing his side instead of letting Kabaji slash his side. Like there's just so many instances like I've noticed where they cut down on the violence, which is understandable. And especially in the Zeph moment where it's so character related, like.
But that moment I actually thought it was way better in the anime, because that just means he didn't. Of course, because he didn't eat anything.
Okay, that's fair.
He sacrificed his leg and didn't eat anything, instead of just like, I survived by eating my leg. I actually thought it was way better. Like that's way more raw to have that. And I understand that like you can like that's for TV censorship purposes of like you're not seeing him crush his foot or whatever. And heck, the Netflix anime was actually the Netflix live action, not the anime, was faithful to that. Yeah, they actually had him eat his leg, but they didn't even show him break it or anything. So I think it was possible for the anime to have done that, and I feel like it feels more like a series composition choice where they needed to kind of flesh it out to make it a bit to fill out that time of like 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
haven't gotten to rewatching that part yet, so
yeah. At least and I did check the episode again, like after I realized I was like, wait a minute, that is not the same. I don't remember that happening like that. And then like it was really interesting, and also the fucking I point this out in the latest Piss Pirates, the fucking Arlong Park walk is just not a thing in the manga.
No,
it's like that's so ridiculous. It's like no wonder that people who only read it were like, "Piece is okay. I'll give it a 6." It's like because they didn't see the fucking Arlong Park walk or whatever, or just along these different whatever. I don't know. It's just it blows my mind. So
I mean, yeah, that's kind of why I've wanted to rewatch it, just because and go through it and like because I'm watching literally everything. If it's subbed, I'm watching it. Like I've already just from the first 7, and I'm following the watch order from the Wikia, which just has every single thing in release order. So like I started with the Gonzak OVA, Then I watched the first 5 episodes. Then I watched the recap of the first 5 episodes called like the plan to get the One Piece or whatever. And then I watched up to episode 16. And I watched the movie, and then I watched 17, and that finished the Maple Village arc, and then I kind of put it down because I kind of wanted to like
That's
go into
weird
the
that
Netflix,
the movie came out at that point, like before Syrup Village was even done, because Usopp's
Right?
on the crew by that point. That's
Right?
weird. That's
Yeah.
strange.
But what I'm looking for, it's also kind of the same reason like I've been doing stuff the way I do, where I like go through whole franchises of like video games or
Yeah.
stuff like from the beginning, because I just want to be informed and like
Mhm.
and because like with One Piece, like I've heard about the pacing with Dressrosa, which like you mentioned, it isn't exclusive to Dressrosa, right? So it's like, but
And
I
I
want to
didn't even
watch
feel
it
it
for
that
myself.
bad in Dressrosa, because I think Dressrosa is such a strong arc, and I ended up being so invested in the characters that weren't just Luffy and these other guys. And I feel like people who complain about Dressrosa might have other problems with Dressrosa that are not exclusive to the anime, such as the whole birdcage
Yes.
thing, and how it's like, what do you mean Zoro can't cut it? Oh, like shit like that. It's like, okay. I don't know, but I think it's a banger arc, and I didn't have next to any problems with watching it. But I'm kind of the only one that can attest to that, because my roommate, I believe it could have been Marineford, but I think it was around Fishban when he was feeling the pacing issue. Like he was considering it. That was a problem. I had still not felt that way really, because I thought I thought that again it was more evident throughout the whole thing, and so he moved on to One Pace. He watched One Pace and he enjoyed it. He still really
Okay.
likes, he had a great time. He said that I was like, "Is there anything weird that you noticed or whatever?" And he's like, "There was like one moment in Punk Hazard that was like, wait a minute, what?" There was like a confusing cut or something like that. But otherwise, he really didn't notice anything. And
Okay.
he's not a noob. He's not.
All right, that's good.
He's discerning. I think he definitely would have picked up something if he noticed it. But that's the thing. You don't know what you're missing until you compare it and you actually see what they cut. You're like, they cut that, right? You don't know that if you're watching it fresh for the first time. And I
Yeah.
genuinely, I haven't really tried One Pace or have attempted to look into it yet. What I do know about it, I did talk with somebody. I don't want to disclose whatever, but like they showed me screenshots from their Discord server where they had just open contempt for the anime. They just don't like it. They think it's crap. You know, just their impression of it just makes me think that like, I don't really want to experience this story through their perspective, through their telling, and they're not the ones who are putting all this work in, animating it, doing the series composition, having to air it on television, which allows them to actually make it in the first place. And I'm an editor. I make these sorts of things. There have been moments where I have finagled with the animation to make it loop, or to make it like a little more seamless. So if it's animated on 4s, I've animated it on 2s. Like I've actually spliced frames out to make it like, just to make it like for my video or something like that. So I'm familiar. I feel like I can detect these things when I'm like, well, that's rough, or or like, why'd you do that, or whatever. Because I just feel like I have a bone to pick with them. I'm just fiercely interested. The other general thing, it's like, guys, it's not even done. I don't know why people are flocking to it when like they're not even finished with it, and they're making it in like piecemeal. From what I understand, they're like, oh, we have a little bits of Alabasta left, we have a little bit of Skype. Like it's patchwork. It's a patchwork job, and they started in Dressrosa, and like, do you have to go back to afterwards where like, oh, we cut something that like, this is ridiculous. It's just, if I was to do any kind of edit for One Piece, it would be the few times that the anime breaks its own rules and continuity. There is one episode that they did not end on it to be continued. I believe.
There's some
I'm pretty
earlier
sure.
ones that like they don't, or at least
The
maybe
first
they
2 or 3 episodes they have the
yeah,
Suzuku. It's not the English, but that's fine. I just
it's
more like
yeah, they
it's straight
yeah,
up they
okay.
didn't have the to be continued or whatever. Or like, all this OP issues. Like all the like Crunchyroll doesn't have all of the OPs, and they often like they played the fucking Fishman Island one for like half of Punk Hazard or something stupid like that. It was like,
Okay.
what the
Huh.
fuck is going on? Like it was really kind of a weird mess. And to me, it's like low key. They should have just it should have just been We Are with updating visuals, if you ask me.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Just because like I was frustrated when watching it that like a lot of the OPs are fine, but they don't have anything to do with the arc itself. Like
Yeah.
I don't even think it had. I don't know if the early OPs had Vivi in them. I don't remember if they did.
No, she wasn't in it
She
because
wasn't
it
one of
only
them?
would have been two. No, she wasn't. It was only 2 and 3, and because 3
Yeah.
had Robin, which means
Right.
it was
Yeah,
you
and
know,
I think
and
in
then
all the
Discussed
early
OP
ones
too.
were very obsessed with like
The
kind of
crew
just
and the past or
just the
whatever.
Straw Hats. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was never arc specific. I remember watching
No, they
ideas
weren't.
where I'm like, this is nice, but what is relevant? Like, what's happening? And it wasn't until the Water 7 OP that I'm like, finally, fuck yeah! Oh, like, holy shit, who's
in
that?
a way,
And, like,
the
it was great.
4Kids opening is kind of the same. It is the Americanized version of what the One Piece opening is, where it is just that kind of nondescript, like these are
Yeah.
the Straw Hats and this is what they do, and that's kind
They're
of
gonna
it.
do the One Piece, right?
Yeah, and
But
like
We Are is so perfect because like it is centered on Straw Hats, but it has ways to kind of like feet to tease who's relevant in that in the East Blue, like the way they kind of flash the villains and stuff and
Yeah.
certain little bits like that.
are you implying that One Piece 4Kids isn't also perfect?
I don't have that much experience with the one with
Okay, I'm not talking about the
that
dub.
OP.
I just mean the OP. That's
Yeah.
all I care about.
No, it's a bro. He's like a samurai.
Dude, Chopper Doctrine goes so crazy. I'll never get over it. It's like he had nothing else to say about him. It's
Actually, isn't there a Japanese song of "Ore wa choppa"?
yeah, because it was a
Yeah.
huge viral sound on TikTok for a little bit.
Tori
Actually.
choppa. Yeah. It's like you are my friend. Or is like he has some fucking funny shit, like a little chiming in or something. It's so funny and cute. That was like being posted a heck of a lot when season 2 got announced that Chopper was going to be in it. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to kind of go through One Piece and kind of dissect it the way that I have the anime encyclopedia, where I'm just kind of clowning on a fan project.
Hell yeah,
Low-key.
take them down a peg. Those
No,
fans.
The last straw is that like Pro ZD is just like, I want a One Piece version of Made in Abyss.
It exists.
Hello?
It's called the fucking movie trilogy.
Yeah, no, he's talking about season 2. He's like, I'm enjoying season 2.
Oh god.
But I
damn
wish
it.
there was a One Piece style edit that cut out all the creepy stuff. And
Oh,
everyone was
God.
clowning on him. He's like, it would be 5 minutes. There would be nothing left. It's just and I
Made in
I had
Abyss,
like a-
you just can't separate that series from.
no, and I had like a reply to like Lachlan who quote tweeted it because I didn't want to be blocked or whatever. But I was like, I replied, I was like, it's taking some of my willpower to not just scream filtered. Filtered by Made in Abyss creep, by creepy monster toilet. I haven't even seen season 2.
Skill issue.
Dude, I mean,
It's like, well, yeah, good for him to like renew
it's
the
maybe a
discourse around that show.
good skill to not have. Maybe
Mm.
as someone who's read
Yeah.
all of Made in Abyss, it's or all of it up to a point, up through what season 2 covers. It is something, you know.
Yeah, I've heard. I haven't and I haven't looked into the manga too much afterwards because I was like, like everyone else when the first season came out, like really like holy shit, and kind of jumped into the manga and everything, and thinking about like how long will it take to adapt up to where it is or whatever, how much longer does the series have before it like finishes. I haven't looked.
and it
Is
it comes out
finished?
pretty slowly too. No,
Exactly, exactly.
they
It's
literally
really
just
slow.
got to the last layer, so it's getting there, but
Okay,
it
cool.
comes out really slow as well. So
Well, that's promising. They got to the last layer. That's encouraging. Probably some like, I imagine there's maybe some pressure now that it had gotten an anime and it was successful and got a movie and more. Hopefully that was like motivating them to finish it. Because that is one movie where that's one series where I'm like, please have an ending, please please finish. I'm not even like, I'm not even like that with One Piece at all. Obviously, because I just whatever. But that one I'm more like with One Piece. I'm just like, I'm enjoying it so much moment to moment that I it's like any more that you got, I enjoy. I'm not like begging it to end or something. But Main Abyss, I'm more like, oh, I have a feeling this has a chance because of the way it's being released, right? It's not like One Piece where it's like, yeah, this will probably finish. With Main Abyss, it's like, oh my god, is it just gonna be like one season and we never fucking hear from it again? God, literal damn it. That's why that's one reason why I'm so over seasonals now. And
yeah,
I can understand.
I feel
think
that.
what was it? Who was it? Oh, FD Signifier. FD Signifier actually was on the Weeb crew.
Weeb crew.
Yeah. And mentioned that's why he kind of stopped being like as much of an anime fan, because so many anime don't have actual endings, which he's not completely wrong about.
Well, like one thing I just thought of was just how like you have fucking The Devil's a Part Driver getting a season 2 like 10 years later, and they just announced another Kimi Todoke season after fucking ages.
Yeah,
like Bleach is only just now getting the 1,000-Year Blood War when the original season's been done forever. That it went to the full ring. So it's like
the honest answer.
So they'll still end stuff eventually sometimes, but
and like that's great. That's great for Bleach getting its final arc adapted. But with Devil's a Part-Timer, it's really hard for me to get excited about that when it's just one more season.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that we get fucking, because it's like as soon as you ask it for a season 2 of Baccano and you get it, okay, now we're season 3.
You've opened Pandora's box, right?
Where you have the same problem as before. You've not even solved the problem.
Well, I think it's one thing where it's like, okay, if you leave it in 2003 and you don't do another season, then it's a lot easier to be like, okay, it's just dead. It's dead as a series. We're leaving it as it is. It's fine as one thing, right? It's the same with like Barakamon. Like, it's an anime I fucking love. It doesn't need a season 2, even though like I think that the continuation of the story is like way better, and I fucking love the rest of the manga and think it's like better than what the anime covers. It doesn't need it. It's fine as it is, because once you do that second season, I need like a third and a fourth to finish out the story. But if you just leave it as is and it's like its own self-contained thing, it's fine. And I think that's the thing with like a lot of the anime series, is like, because so many of them are adaptations and like they just aren't complete. It's like Haikyuu or even like Bleach. Like there's so many series where it's like they've been done for, half a decade in like Bleach's case, or maybe not a decade, but a while. And it's like they've been done for so long and the anime is just now finishing. It's like the ending was just there. It was just in other things. And so it does make it hard, I think. For people who only want to watch anime, because you just sometimes are stuck. It's like, I don't know if I'll ever see the ending of this story,
Sure, but it's even worse with like with manga and light novels, because it does feel like some of them aren't even designed or have an ending in mind. They don't even have any fucking idea themselves about like ending. Like I was so over isekai, not because of the saturation, but because it didn't seem like a single one of them was ever going to get an ending.
No, that I hit that. I think, well, really the one that did that for me, because I don't watch a huge amount of them, but like, because I watched ReZero, I fucking loved it, and I was so interested in what's happening next. And it's like, even if I catch up with the light novels, like, how far are we? Halfway done? Are we a third of the way done? I don't know. I'm gonna be in pain no matter what happens. I'm fucked. I like this series. I'm just doomed, I guess, right? And it's like, there are so few of them that are done. That because it's such a relatively new. Like the boom. I mean, obviously, like stories with the isekai tropes have existed for a while, but like these stories and this boom is relatively recent. So
I also
go ahead.
Well, the other thing with isekais that people don't talk about, I feel like, as much when it comes to the length of them, is that like they love to borrow heavily from like one of the most infamously long video game genres. Like every isekai loves to just constantly talk, like poke fun and like, you know, joke at being like a JRPG or set up like a JRPG or have JRPG mechanics. Those are like 100-hour games, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm sure that on some level the length is built into them, and you know, especially with how they are all set up, where it's all, you know, it's all very Dragon Quest, like, oh, there's a demon king that is somewhere in the world that eventually you'll have to fight, and it's like, okay, like, don't even fucking try me. I've done this whole spiel before. I know eventually that you'll fight God, and that'll be the end of it. All right, but like, we got to get there, you know, in 80 levels. Like, that's how like they all feel, because they're all just like, you know. Like isekai, and because, you know, it's like the same as like RPG novels and stuff. Like, they're all just fucking like Dragon Quest. So it's just they're all just crazy long by design.
But at least with those games, it's for some reason it feels different because it's not as sequential. There's only a few game series that I'm not like a big gamer, but there's only like a couple of those series that have that same dynamic as manga, light novels, and anime, where there's a linear narrative that you're expecting an ending of, and obviously, you know, we could put other stories aside that, like, you don't need an ending to Urusei Yatsura. You don't need an ending to Yotsubato, really.
Yeah.
I haven't even read Yotsubato, and it's like, that's not really the kind of story that it's building. There's other ones where it's like, yeah, you clearly are trying to build towards a conclusion.
Yeah.
And that's the case with video games, I think, where it's like, oh, a new Dragon Quest game came out, and then you beat it, and it's like, oh, that was a great Dragon Quest game. Oh, it would be cool if they make another one. But you're not just like, oh, like, they better make an next one. Finish the story.
That's a good point. Yeah, because the game comes out and you buy it, and the game has the ending there versus you.
Yeah,
get a
right. And you have, and that's
it's
like a complete experience.
Yeah.
And if Elden Ring gets a sequel, oh shit, all right, cool. You know, and not like, okay, we know this is a new trilogy or something. It's like, oh, they're following the pattern. There must be a Demon Souls 3.
Yeah.
No, probably not. But there are a few. You are right to an extent with some of these games, like the games that I'm familiar with, that my roommate plays, is the Trails games, Trails of Cold Steel, Trails of Sky, something. And then the newest arc is like Trails into Darkness, and those are still complete games, and they have like their own thing, but it's like a season of TV or something similar, again, to anime or
and
novels,
they're
or
connected,
something,
and
right?
they build off
it's an
each other
ongoing
and stuff.
story. And it's like, all right, there's the continuing saga of this region or this cast of characters. If I'm not mistaken, there's like certain eras where they're done with certain protagonists, like, oh, that we've told their story, but it's still within the same world, and now we're focusing on a new set of
so
characters
I haven't played the games, but from my understanding, it's like it's all one big like fantasy world, and different series in it are taking place at like roughly the same time and focus on different continents and different like areas entirely. And it's like one arc is one area and group, and another arc is another one, and then eventually they cross over. And especially like by this point, I think in the series, like however many games in, it's like a lot more of like the crossover shit. But I don't know. I haven't played them. That's just like me like seeing people talk about it like on Twitter, and you know what I mean? Like,
and they're not, and it's so interesting, these different kinds of these ways of telling stories. Like there's the stories that don't need an ending like that, but then there's that third kind where it's like Super Sentai or Kamen Rider or Precure, where it's just another season of it. And if you get another season, cool, and it's completely different. But there's still a framework, expectations. You know what you're getting into, but it's its own isolated, complete thing. And you have a expectation. Obviously, there's some cinemas and some stuff that they might revive the characters or bring the characters back in another capacity or something. But it's like, my roommates and I started Agito a few weeks ago, and we know that is a complete story. It's one season. Right, Forza and build, etc. And there might have been some instances. I think Agito is technically a sequel to Kuga, but because it's like kind of. At least that's what I was told, or like it uses the same system as Kuga, where like the writer changes forms based on the weapon he's using or something like that, and then like Agito doesn't necessarily explain that or whatever, but I don't need to explain it because I've seen a Kamen Rider show before, and I'm an adult also, so I'm not sitting there and be like, what does that mean? what is that? What does any of this mean? I don't understand it. Like, fucking anyone that consumes media like that is a fucking mouth breather, bro. Like not even like, what is your prerogative? Is your prerogative to understand this work or to enjoy the work? You know, and those are two different things. And your prerogative should be having fun. We're watching this for fun, right? Like this is enjoyable. It's not like your job to review it or something. And in that case, I can understand it, like having. But then I don't know, something about our culture makes it feel like all of us are reviewers, and everyone's watching it with the perspective, I'm going to review this show, even if it's not your job. You don't work for a publication, like you're working for yourself. It's like, okay, good for like my audience wants to know what I think of it, but maybe just talk about what you think of it and not just like here's what it is, here's the deal, here's what you know. I don't know. It's different prerogatives, I guess. The reviewing thing has warped and corrupted ever since Ebert and Siskel died. IMO. IMHO.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's fair. I haven't really thought about it because like I'm just used
that's
to
a completely
being
different point than what we were talking about.
No, that went on. We went on a couple tangents there. I was trying to talk about Boruto, and we're somehow we went down like 5 streets, and I'm like, oh, we're lost. I need the GPS.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was a good discussion, but it's just
my only take about. I'm sorry I didn't have too much to say about Boruto. I guess my thing about it was.
Oh,
like,
I wasn't done.
Yeah, please
go ahead. No, you go.
I guess my
basically. Go
ahead. Okay, my thing is all I know is that they really tried to find that one exploit. Like, what is the one thing that we can extract and continue with that makes it feel like, oh yeah, this is a continuation or whatever. Because like I think most fans would have been perfectly fine with seeing who ends up with who and just having them fight, and then there could have been more interpersonal conflicts. You know, that some misunderstanding happens where the Earth, I was gonna say Earth Nation, like it's fucking Avatar: The Last Airbender. I say the Earth Kingdom. Yeah, no, I don't know. One of the villages.
The village of Stone or the village? Yeah.
Yeah, the Stone guys just get into a kerfuffle with, and then there's another war. Like there's just some conflict that's just going to naturally happen in this system of ninjas, in the shinobi system. And that was, I think, what is it, Madara? Or there's some characters that were just like, dude, this system is just fucked. Like you're all based on conflict. Like you're all like training for war. So of course this, like what you're saying, war and peace, whatever. So that all would have been perfectly fine, but it feels like they had to escalate everything because they failed to nerf Naruto and Sasuke at the end of the story, even though you had the perfect opportunity to, with them blowing their arms off at the end, and not just like, oh, I'm healed, and Sasuke just like, I don't feel like it. You're like, oh, all right, but they're still super like the strongest beings, whatever. So now you have to have moon people, the one little thread that didn't get fully fleshed out in the original series, and that's your in. You know, I don't know. I just misplaced expectations for me. I just like, I wish the story, and again, not as someone who's even tried it, just from osmosis, it just feels like it went in kind of a poor direction. And you can fucking like, I don't know. There's certain, again, vibes that I'm getting and certain feelings and what I'm hearing about it, where it's like, you can tell Kishi's not writing it or drawing.
He's involved.
He's involved, sure.
Yeah.
But when he's directly writing something like this fucking, like the fucking Minato one shot, it's peak. He's got it. Like that's it. That is exactly what you want. If you want more Naruto content, you know, he knows exactly what he's doing because it's his story. But like, just because I just don't think of him being directly involved, I can fucking tell, is what I'm saying.
Well, see, but my thing, so coming as someone who's primarily read the manga and hasn't seen much of the anime, like I remember Vindy and Nun actually they watched like up to the Land of Waves, and they did a podcast discussing it, and I listened to it, and it's like literally from the beginning, the anime staff has such a good grasp of Naruto and the characters, and that like even just in what I've seen, it especially like Naruto versus Sasuke, which I brought up in my Sasuke video, because it fucking shows. And so my
Yeah.
stance there is like, because obviously I think the other sort of caveat with the Naruto anime is that like they have a lot of like the word you use a lot is additive, and I like that word,
Yeah.
content that enhances the material, but then they also have like a bunch of dumb filler,
Sure.
and maybe the other thing is that Naruto as a manga is such a complete story that like it is it is maybe hard in some ways to add stuff to it, like and which might also why stuff, but Boruto
I have my section on Naruto filler,
yeah,
and there's clear demonstrations that there's instances where they knew what they were doing, and there's ways that they could have done good filler, and then there's other poor choices where it's like this doesn't actually add anything, and is not interesting or substantive. There's good and bad ways. It's all about the approach.
right. And but so my stance is that like, so because I've read 14 volumes of the Boruto manga, the anime only goes up through like volume like 16ish, maybe 17, probably not, I don't know, because it stops partway through an arc because there was production hiccups, and so it
Yeah.
hits an ending before literally, like, which is really unfortunate because there's
Yeah, towards
been
like the last few bits. Yeah, it might be
literally
a
like a few
movie.
more volumes
It could be a movie or something if they ever get
that
back
could,
to it.
but yeah, literally, if they had just adapted the last few volumes, there would have been a time skip anyway, which is like if you're gonna stop it
Right.
from there.
That's
But-
exactly where you
but
stop
so-
it, right?
but they expanded these like 17 volumes into almost 300 episodes. So it's like you're
Yeah.
giving, if I was gonna
Yeah.
give like the staff like basically a blank canvas to do what they want, it'd be the Naruto staff, because they understand this material and they know this world, and like
I
what they
agree.
like. I can honestly say like with, as far as like the Boruto cast's characters, like even if I'm never gonna like them as much like anyone, even Boruto, as much as like Naruto and Sasuke, who are just phenomenal, like
Yeah.
from the manga, like I can say I overall like the Boruto cast of kids better than like the Naruto cast of kids, where it's like, okay, I like Rock Lee and Neji, Hinata is cool, like Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto obviously, but it's like nah, Choji, even though he gets some stuff, I've just never been super into him. Shino, I literally like more in Boruto as a teacher more than I ever liked him in the manga.
Makes
Like,
sense. I believe that.
then
They
just,
don't do much with Shino. Does Ten
yeah, and then
get
there's
anything in Boruto, or does she disappear?
no. She's showed up a couple times, but like they're able to just do so much interesting and cool, and like there's one episode in Boruto where what happens is like, so it's focused on Inojin, and like it's also like there's parts of it that are more slice of lifey, and maybe people aren't into that, and I obviously love slice of life, so I don't mind it. But so this episode is one of those where it's like, so Inojin has the same art, he has the same ninjutsu as Sai, where he draws stuff and it comes to life, and he's sort of like, he hits a point where it's like he doesn't like doing the art factor, so he tries to like copy the pages and take shortcuts basically. And the ninja, his ninjutsu stops working, and so Sai kind of like works on mentoring him through it, as like trying to show him that like in order for the jutsu to work, he has to care about the art. And I thought it was interesting because it's like there's ways that he does it that's really funny. Like Himawari wins like an art contest, and like Inojin loses it, and he complains about like nepotism, and then he like brings her in as like a mentor, and it's like she's a little fucking child, like, and it's just funny. But then like the way they like Inojin's treating his art like a shinobi tool, and like when it's actually something that he has to care about, which like the fact that this works with Sai, who himself was a shinobi tool and as part of Root Foundation, whatever they call it. And like, so, and the fact that like his art always worked, and that was the one thing that connected him to like his brother, like because he was drawing in that book, like I thought it was an interesting addition, because like it was it was a neat conflict for Inojin to explore and like learn this thing that his father already had figured out, and like this little addition to how this ninjutsu worked. Also, I liked Sai even better, and I already loved him from the manga, so I just was like, wow. And the anime is just full of those kind of like additions and things, where it's just like it takes this Cliff Notes version of a story in the manga, and just it adds so much to it that it's just, I fucking love it. Like I just keep I think about just how much I look forward to, and it makes me want to go into go back and watch Naruto in full, like I'm doing with One Piece. Not until after I catch up and finish the One Piece one, of course, but eventually I want to do it. So I understand if you still not into you're still not into it, but like I do kind of hope you.
I have my concerns about it, more so because I guess what is it's so funny that, and especially the way you were describing it, I have exact deja vu about Pokemon. I have the exact same reservations about how that turned out and what I was hearing about it, and then what you're taking away from from Boruto is very similar to what I've seen people taking away from the last season of Pokemon. Not like the 13 episode very end one, which is kind of similar, but mostly like 2019, where they really didn't do a whole lot. You know, it was sort of
Okay.
a lot of slice of life adventures, not a whole lot of progression, not a lot of conflict and interesting things. And obviously, people can still glean stuff from it. I don't know. I just, to me, you can have all of that as well as having the things that make both Pokemon and Naruto the special stories that they are, you know, because like the original Pokemon has plenty of those episodic stories, but it has a narrative forward momentum and progression along that journey, and making that, I don't know, making it more of an impactful overall experience instead of like a trail mix bag of like, oh, this is kind of cool, like these little adventures. Oh, I like seeing Ash again, you know, which is what it feels. The few bit like the I watched maybe like 16 episodes or something of like 2019 Pokemon, and it's just like, what are we doing? Yeah, it's like he could just kind of go wherever, do what, like he doesn't feel like he has any. There's things that he can put in front of him, but it just seems really boring. And my roommate watched all of it. He was just kind of reporting into me like every few weeks, being like, yeah, it's just the same shit.
Dude, I just
It's
want to
like,
see the silly monsters be cute, man. What's wrong with that?
there isn't anything wrong with that, but you can also get that in a story like Pokemon X and Y, where you get that as well as incredible character progression.
Yeah,
for
but
some of these
they're- but
characters
they're-
and a narrative momentum, forward progression.
But in
And
the
it becomes a full
anime, the
package.
Pokemon do funny little animal things, and I like that.
Oh, I agree.
And that's like the only reason I like watch the Pokemon anime. But I like
Yeah.
seeing the Pokemon do stuff
Yeah.
that like obviously they don't do in the games because they have more animation.
Yeah.
And that's like it. And I think especially the newest Pokemon series, it does a really cool job at like adding them into the world in really fun ways, and that's
Implementing
what
them, for
makes
sure.
the Pokemon series like worth watching. Like that's it.
That's,
Like I'm not
cool.
watching the Pokemon series for like, you know, a fucking. I'm not trying to have my mind blown with some crazy next level story. I just kind of want fucking to see the cute monsters be cute and go around and say
Yeah.
their name.
I think I cherished my experience watching Pokemon XY and Pokemon XY and Z weekly, and that visceral feeling of like, oh, he really could do this,
Mhm.
and he's acting in a much more mature way and training his Pokemon, and his Pokemon are really good. And there's just something really exciting seeing that progression of his and following his journey with his experiences with Paul and then losing against Tobias, and then just kind of where it was previously with Black and White, where it's like, yeah, Oshawott cute and I like him and I like some of the Pokemon that he has, but he gets fucking washed, and like it doesn't feel like he retained any of the experience or knowledge that he had in previous seasons. It felt like a regression of his character. And then he comes in XY and he's just way more mature. It feels like everyone's looking up to him, and there's just something really profound and like special about that. And so that experience for me was what I was sort of missing from 2019, and even from Sun Moon, which I know is like a kind of a universally beloved season, and even the one where he actually wins, I don't 100% feel like he completely earned it, if I'm going to be honest with you. But it's so I had this. It's like a weird thing with me with Pokemon, and so I guess not to be like that I'm like that with Naruto necessarily, but I can see that happening where
Mhm.
all I can focus on is that the main threat they're doing is all this Kawaki shit and the Moon people and this inner conflict that Boruto has going on. That is what I would focus on, and that stuff seems underwhelming or not quite there. Like I don't really know where this is supposed to be going. Whereas in Naruto, I obviously I kind of have the advantage of hindsight, knowing that it ends with a clash with Naruto and Sasuke, and this whole thing with Madara or whatever. I had a lot of that going for me, of course. So I don't have that with Boruto, where it's like, okay, there's this time skip. Is the idea, since he doesn't want to be Hokage, that he the village? There's not as much of a rock solid end goal that I can see with this series as much as I did with Naruto. That is
Mhm.
part of the reason I was so enamored by it and was invested by it. You know what I mean? And I think the same reason that a lot of people who have experienced Naruto for the first time recently and are reading it now for the first time, right, and appreciating it, none of them are like, I don't know, I shouldn't speak for them, I guess, but like Boruto's not even in their mind, because to us, to me at least, Naruto's a complete story, and Boruto is like DLC. It's kind of like, oh, there's more of that. I could do that. Yeah, I could check it out. Maybe more. But it was the fact that we were able to watch it and experience it when it was all done. That's a really strong part of the appeal. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to go into that, and this kind of like this mystery, and in the hands of these authors with Kishimoto's supervision. That's like, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? You know, it's, and I have a lot of other stuff that I want to be at, you know, One Piece or
Yeah, that's fair.
you know, a lot of other like I have the Magical Girl stint or whatever. So I guess to me it's like, yeah, I'm good. I guess.
No, yeah, I got you, like, cause
When
like
it's done, hit
again,
me
like,
up, right? It's the same with like
no,
fucking
yeah, okay, that's
JJK.
fair.
I'm not watching JJK. I'm not watching Demon Slayer. I didn't start either. I only kind of started Chainsaw Man because like I just happened to kind of start that one when it was a new series. And it was only like maybe 17 chapters in where I was like, I think this is going to get an anime. And then I ended up being anime only for that one. But then, yeah, I stopped watching Hero Academia at like season 3, just being like, I'm just going to fucking wait till it's done. And it seems like that's a good choice because everyone seems so burnt out on that show, on that series now. It kind of feels like a similar Naruto or Bleach situation where everyone was like dogging on it, completely dogging on it. And it's not until it was done and people are able to kind of reappraise Bleach and Naruto that both series have kind of gotten way more appraisal lately.
I feel like I don't know where you're seeing the
done.
Bleach stuff, because I feel like I just constantly still see people shit on Bleach. So,
Oh, sure.
I mean, I guess there's more. Yeah.
It's not nearly this. It's not nearly the
but...
case. But I guess with Blood Warriors anime coming out now, it does feel like more people are enjoying it than when the manga was coming out. That like people were kind of clowning on it and be like, "What is this bullshit?" Like whatever, and they have like their problems with it. I don't know. I just see way more enthusiasm and excitement now that the anime is being made, I guess.
I feel like there's a lot more there is like a lot more excitement and hype around Bleach, to the point where like I feel like even when people are hating on it, I feel like people who are excited about it are able to like fight back against that more, whereas beforehand they're a lot more like defeatist and like bending over
exactly
the hatred. But because they're so excited for the Bleach anime to be back and they're like giving it another chance, like I feel like they're a lot stronger than I guess the haters.
And again, seeing the whole story from beginning to end and being able to appreciate it, there's certain creators and stuff that like doing full series overviews and we're like, actually, this is pretty good. This is pretty good, guys. I don't know what you were because you know we talked about like a certain series falling off after a certain point, like everyone talking about how like Soul Society is the best arc, and then it goes to shit from there. But I disagree. As someone who watched watched Bleach after the fact, I much prefer the Arrancar saga.
As a manga fan, I think like Soul Society is like my second least favorite arc. I like every arc that comes after Soul Society better. Like it's good. Like I like Soul Society a lot. Don't get me wrong, but like Bleach is just fucking insane. And I'm really excited to reread it and do some content on it because holy fuck, that series does not get the respect it deserves. It's sad. It's so sad.
And again, I think it's because they have the full story in mind. They can see where it's going. And it's so much easier to just be cynical about, like, because we've seen with Dragon Ball how it just kind of kept going until he couldn't go anymore. We've seen with Yu Yu Hakusho where he kept going until he couldn't go anymore. There's so many of these older series where it's easy to be cynical that these newer series are going to do the same thing. They're going to follow this. They're going to have the same fate. You literally never know until it's over. You know, until the author sticks that landing. And I feel like One Piece is in a position that everyone has confidence in it because of the way Oda's talked about it and the way that he's demonstrated that he knows his series cover to cover and he's not being dragged along. If anything, he's dragging it along because he just loves fucking drawing it. He's had this one quote where he's like, I get an idea and I don't want to disappoint people by not giving them that idea I just had. So I'm going to put it in, you know? So if anything, it's more of his own expectations and him overachieving, if anything. But everyone has the confidence. Everyone knows that he knows what the One Piece is and what he
Yep.
intends to do at the end of the story. So all of us have that faith in him, you know? And I don't think it was necessarily the same case with Naruto, or even currently with Hero Academia, or with
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think
whatever.
people are a lot more hesitant, or just hesitant in general, to trust a series. And One Piece, I think, after all this time, finally has earned most people's general trust, where people are finally like, okay, just put me on the fucking ride. Take me where you take me. It is what it is.
Right.
And I think that they didn't have that trust as much for Naruto.
Saying Final Saga certainly helps.
That is true. Yeah, it does
It's
finally make
definitely
people be
better
like,
than
all right.
where you were in Dressrosa and Full Cake. We were like, okay, bro, are you gonna? Who are these fuckers? Why aren't we finding the One Piece right
But
now?
I also would not be surprised if as One Piece gets closer to ending and more like doors in the story close, and like as avenues close and character stories close, and people's theories are proven wrong and their expectations aren't met, I would expect to see a large amount of, like, even if it is just like a vocal minority, just a lot more people being really negative out of nowhere, like off one chapter. You know what I mean? People just completely flipping the book on One Piece because a character might die, or a character might not do what someone thinks it's gonna do, or they might be wrong about something, and people are just gonna start fucking losing it. I think
I mean, even this freak out about JJK's latest chapter.
Yeah.
When I first heard about it, I was like, okay, that's crazy.
What's their plan?
But like, give it a second, because around the time that happened, I was watching Alexander read Naruto, and he got to the part where Kakashi, quote unquote, dies to pain, and it's like, that seems pretty cut and dry. He died there, but it was in such a way that it's like, wait a minute, he didn't get the send off that Asuma did, or that Hiruzen did, or that these other characters who definitely died have gotten, but it's Kakashi. Why is it Why is it happening like this? Right? And that's the signal that Kishi's giving you, that it's not quite that, right? And obviously maybe it's a little more cut and dry for JJK.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I've literally, like, because I've been reading it, and I was literally talking to my friend about it, and it's like, because like, who's gonna win? And I'm like, there's literally only one way this is going to end. Like, the story literally does not make sense if it does not end that way. Like, and it's like, it ended that way. Wow, what do you know? You know, and again, not to disparage it, but it's just like, people. I mean, I guess people are still surprised and shocked because when they went through with it, but it's, I guess, but
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so
but
I'm not.
Is sort of, we don't see the full thing,
and I'm not current, obviously. I have no idea. But like, I feel like just from not being current, hearing the JJK spoiler, I feel like that's something that, like, getting mad at it is weird to me, because it's such an, like, first of all, it's a bold choice to just fucking do it when you know he's, you know what I mean, just like as popular.
Yeah, the nature of the spoiler.
Yeah. But then also, like, I don't know, it's like, that's something, it's like, okay, well, what's the plan next? Like, that's like more interesting than, I don't know, like,
oh yeah,
the
for sure, like, because it's like,
for the story.
it's
And
the
so
kind of
then it makes
situation-
it interesting to me that, like, people get so upset about it, because, like, this is like making the story more interesting. I don't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because now the question is, like, okay, what do they do against this antagonist now? Because it's like, well, he's insanely strong, and, well, fuck, you know, right? So yeah, that's interesting, I guess. Yeah, so for sure.
But it's just, to me, it's like, you never know until it's over.
Yeah,
and then you
fair.
can really
for
see,
sure.
you can assess the whole thing. It does make me interested how how Demon Slayer's been done for kind of a while, and even with the anime going and doing its thing, that a lot of people haven't necessarily done that reassessing for Demon Slayer, because of the way apparently it ended or something.
Dude,
Oh,
I did.
Yeah. No, that was a big, like, thing on the Weeb Club that kind of affected just how I think of things, because to give it from my perspective is like Nun and Vindy were reading Kimetsu Weekly for a while, and they weren't really happy with it. But then it ended, and they reread it, and they were like, "Wow, it's actually good." Like they reassessed it immediately, and I kind of heard some of the discourse from it, so I went in kind of knowing some things already, and I just like, yeah, that's a good fucking manga. And apparently, like, if people like aren't doing that, it's like, well, fuck, do I have to make a fucking Kimetsu video? I guess so.
Yeah, I
I've been
think
thinking
a
about it since
Musen
I read it.
video will have to come out. Someone will have to make that video because
I already have,
because
if
he
I'm doing
turns
a Kimetsu video,
into
I literally
Big
already have it in
Baby,
mind.
and is as great as I think it is symbolically. I think a lot
the
of
Big
people.
Baby's still funny.
It is funny, but
it's-
I think it's also good. But I think a lot of people will instead be like, "This is fucking dumb. This is so bad. Why is he a big baby?" But Big Baby funny, you know. I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like honestly, when Shaybs was talking about like Boruto, I also feel similarly like like even though like I'm in the court of Boruto in the sense of like I've read most of it and I've watched a good amount of it. The reason why I haven't like fully caught up with the manga or actually went through it finishing the anime is because I am missing that element of like I really don't know where it's going in its end. Like I want to understand like what Boruto's going to do in its own way to like have value beyond Naruto in the sense of like I feel like what Boruto accomplishes by the end has to be a step further than what Naruto did. And I don't know how it's gonna how he's gonna accomplish that. Like, what is he gonna do that's gonna be better than like Naruto's piece? Like in my mind, I've always like thought that like I guess the only thing they could do is like very literally try to do the thing of like chakra is a tool to connect. So like I guess they're gonna like I don't know, they had to find something to do with that.
What does he want?
You just actually clicked something into place for me because like because one thing I've been thinking about as far as like, okay, the flaws of like what flaws are there in Naruto's piece to consider, and one thing that's still true, even though like the shape of ninjas has changed, but they're still child soldiers. Like Madara's original issue has not been solved
for battles,
and what you made me think of was like, okay, if chakra is the perfect thing to connect, what if they just train everybody in chakra? There's no ninjas anymore because everyone can do this, and everyone has this tool to connect, right? So it like that kind of like, I don't know, maybe that'll work. You know, I don't know how that factors into like the antagonists who are which I will say like the main one that we get in Boruto is really good, but I don't know how they would do that if that's what they're gonna do. So, but I just had the thought when you mentioned that. So, yeah.
And then there's also like I love the antagonists of Naruto, and then like I understand why people like why someone like Shaybs could be less interested in the moon people, because like they're more devoid of emotion, you know. They're not as much of like what I love about all the Naruto antagonists, the main ones specifically, is that at the end of the day they did in their own way want good for the world, whereas like the Otsuki, like they literally don't, like they're not at all so it's hard to like connect with them as antagonists because it's not the same appeal.
And what I liked about the Naruto villains, as well as what you were saying, was that they're actually connected to what's going on. Again, like you're saying, they want ultimately some good in some capacity, just in their kind of wicked, twisted way. But they're because they have some connection to the world, or the village, or whatever. And if they're moon people, they have a tangential like, oh, that's how they're connected, but there's no emotion behind that.
Yeah, like
they're literally
like built
aliens.
Into the thing that they're
literally aliens, right? So, you know, so it's sort of just like I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so because that's definitely true of the first one, Momotsuki, like, because he's very much this like outsider who just kind of comes in and fucks shit up. The second one has a bit more, like, he's been on the planet longer, so he has a bit more personal connection, but he's still a fucking completely horrible piece of shit. You know, but I do Itsuki, I do quite like him though. But you know, again, like Naruto has phenomenal antagonists. My also point is like, because I also understand where you guys are coming from, because like I also thought about like, well, I also like really like Hody Jones, who's just a complete piece of shit. So I don't know, maybe it's just
But
like something
he's
that
one
I'm able to get
antagonist
out of.
of like the bunch.
No,
So
yeah, for sure. Well, no, I'm more trying to compare it to yeah, the antagonists in Naruto all have their things going on, and there's very like Kakuzu's kind
And
of a piece of shit, but it's like,
I
but like
also
especially
don't.
the bigger ones care, or yeah, they do care, and they
I
have
also
stuff
don't
going
want to
on
make
like
it
that.
seem like I'm saying Boruto is bad because it's not as good as Naruto. I don't necessarily need it to surpass Naruto, or
Yeah. No, I'm in the
because
same boat,
I don't
yeah, that's
like
where I'm
that
at.
sort of
Yeah.
like that comparison type of in terms of
yeah,
like
for sure.
right. I don't want to make it about that. I just think that to the reason I bring it connected to Naruto is like so what Naruto did, the reason I don't necessarily see it in this series is because I'm seeing it like this is what Boruto is capable of doing because it's possible. I'm not expecting or giving this unreasonable. I'm not saying like, oh, it should do this thing that One Piece did that because Boruto and Naruto are not One Piece, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you gave I literally compared Naruto to Lord of the Rings, and I do think it has as much, if not more, complexity to Lord of the fucking Rings. Um, so it's like, but at the same time, there's plenty of that in there, like all those characters, like you said, Shino and all these others that didn't get a whole lot that you can still do things with. I fully expect that Boruto could be doing something, but then I'm looking at it and it's introducing these new characters that look like out of a completely different series. Not even like the moon, not even the moon people. Who are these fuckers that look like? I'm not trying to make fun of their fit or anything like that, but like they don't look like they're from Naruto. I'm
No, their
sorry.
drip is whack. You can admit it.
It does. They don't look like they're from the same show, and it's like, oh, so you're trying to like infuse this like new thing by introducing these new characters and everything. That's a play, but what do they have? What? Okay, so like my first question to them is like, okay, what do you have to do with the existing characters, the existing cast? Because that was what was so incredible about Naruto. Over and over, every new character they introduced, I was like, it's like, this is how I matter. This is how I'm connected to all this stuff. This is why you should care about me. You heard about me before, or this other. They're a piece in a puzzle, or whatever. They're all connected. It's insane how well connected. And you literally have the premise where they all have kids. And you get different pairings, like Ino and Sai get together. These two get together. These two get together. They have kids, and they have this kid. Like, there is so much good shit and potential. I don't want to. I also hate when people are like, it has so much potential, right? I don't like that either. Because that's certainly bit the My Hero Academia fans in the ass. It seems.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like you have all that there, and it's like, okay, I'm just seeing it through osmosis. What is it doing? And I don't seem to like. I don't trust or I don't see what it's doing. Is like, I'll pass. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, especially where you're coming from, where it's like it's there. We don't know where the ending is. Like it's not in sight. Like even if like the first part of the anime did end, it literally like ended partway through it, right? So it's like I and like that on top of all what else you've been adding, right? Because
I don't know, and it, like I'm sure, like my roommates have been up to date with Boruto, it seems, and they certainly like certain aspects of it, especially when the anime does that connecting thing. Like you mentioned, the character that Naruto kills, that's like you killed my dad. That's Naruto. That's like Kishi shit. You know what I mean? That's like something he'd write. That makes sense, and it's like that's a compelling thing. It's just from our expectations of this story, and that's good stuff. And so I'm not like kind of discounting it completely as like trash or anything. I haven't even fucking seen it. I just when I'm getting into a story, I kind of have this when I choose to watch something. Most often, I try to have as much of I don't try to spoil myself or anything, but I'm getting into sort of just like, okay, what do I know about this show, and what are the impressions I've heard about it, and the people who have written it, what have they done before, or whatever. I try to get something like that, or what am I interested in watching, and the reason I'm watching this show. In so that I don't have misplaced expectations, or I just kind of watch it. But I don't want to watch something for the sake of it, especially like nowadays about like completionist stuff. I don't want to just watch Boruto because it's more Naruto.
Yeah.
I was pretty damn satisfied with with episode 478. 470, like actually, yeah, 470. I honestly think I didn't even need episodes 479 with like the resolute, like the last couple
The
chapters
epilogue
with
stuff.
him, like, the ending, it really being Naruto handing back Sasuke's headband.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
all that stuff is nice, but I literally think it could have just ended on that last one of them on the rock with their arms blown off, and he's like, "Shut up, Urusura Tonkashi," and that's it.
Oh,
Like
but
that
I
would.
love.
I like this stuff. I'm okay with it too, and it confirms that Hinata gets together with him.
Well,
they have
not
a wedding,
even just
and
like
that's
those,
amazing.
like the light novel episodes. I just like
Sure,
I,
sure.
I was gonna say I just love the what is like the final chapter and the final episode, like the way it all comes
Yeah.
full circle, and you get like
Right.
like
him actually becoming Hokage.
yeah,
right.
and not just him becoming Hokage, but it ties back to the first chapter where now Boruto is doing
The
what
graffiti on
Naruto is
his
doing,
dad.
but instead of
Yeah.
it being to get the attention of anyone in the village, it's just specifically to get Naruto's attention. Like I just like how that works.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. I like the last chapters, like the epilogue chapter for sure. It's just like, yeah, I just kind of look for complete experiences because
Yeah, that's fair.
again, it is that like, it is what FD Signifier was saying was like I can only do so much. I can only be like, yep, I'm waiting for more Kaiji. Yep, I'm waiting for more what there's certain titles where I'm like, man, this I just like, well, all right. And I don't know. When there is so many of these other stories that I have yet to actually see, I guess.
No, yeah, like because that's kind of where I'm at with because I have a list of like a bunch of long stuff I want to get to, but it's like yeah, obviously some stuff is going to be lower on the priority list, right? So it's just
Yeah.
and I think your reasoning for Boruto's fair. I mean I like because yeah, I do still really like it. I've had a video in mind for it where I just talk about like just my top, it's like my top 5 arcs or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
just like me going doing a Craftsdwarf video, but like because I think some of the ideas it explores are really interesting. But yeah, I'm also I'm not gonna how do I'm never gonna blame anyone for not trying something, I guess, even if it makes me sad. So yeah,
Oh, certainly,
Um,
certainly. Yeah, and I can understand that as well. Like, it's like when people decide to read either One Piece or Ashino Joe instead of watching those two shows, because it's just like I can understand Naruto because it does admittedly have the like a complicated watch thing of like understanding like the filler stuff, because I do think that filler can detract and distract and contradict. It does literally pretty much contradict sometimes. Uh, and I literally watched it out of order. Like I watched all the canon stuff and then watched all the filler like together, knowing full well that it was filler, but still watching
Mhm.
it. Um, I don't necessarily wish that on anyone. So I understand if people are like, maybe don't watch it, just watch a couple episodes, even though that's not how I experienced it or whatever. But then there's other instances where it's just like, it feels like you're dodging the superior experience, at least in my opinion, for the sake of what was faster. You don't actually know, you've not seen or read One Piece. And if you're choosing, I don't know, low key, like I just keep seeing people being like, yeah, I'll just read the manga. It's faster. I can read it in a couple of weeks or something. And it's like, is that what you do with media? You just try to get it done as fast as possible. I'm just, I don't know.
No,
Not,
yeah, like because
not to
that's a
not
part
to
of yeah.
not to downplay people who like manga, obviously, but
I feel like I've been trying to like heal my mindset a little bit in terms of like the completionist or like the wanting to finish stuff faster, but just being like in the moment and experiencing it. Because I
yeah,
feel like the way we consume media, especially with like logging shit on Mal or doing like
yes,
Twitter threads,
yes,
it makes you want to just hurry up and finish the next thing to see the number go up. But like you're not like, soaking it in and like realizing that every story needs to be read at a different pace. Not
hmm
necessarily even because of the story itself, but because of like literally you, like you as a person, like maybe, oh, I don't fully get this like the world of the story I'm reading specifically, so I need to slow down, or like there's some different considerations you need to take in mind, but I feel like that doesn't happen. And with me in particular, I feel like there's certain stories that I probably should have like just went through slower and maybe like actually took better like notes on, or like reread things, but because like I wanted to like finish it, I didn't do that, so I didn't get like as much out of it. That's something I've been like really concerned about, especially with like when I read like actual books that don't have any like text or whatever. I mean, not don't have text. I mean,
Right.
don't have pictures.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not sitting there like actually really imagining what's going on. Whereas like I've heard people talk about like the extent of which they imagine things going on, and it's like, damn, I just don't do that. And like I kind of want to try doing that and try having a better picture in my mind about the things I'm reading. So I'm really like trying to get through the thing of like I want to get more value out of the things that I'm reading
That you're
and not
spending your time
necessarily
on.
like in one ear and out the other kind of thing.
Yeah, consuming, just passive consumption, for sure. Although what you're saying about the books with like, visualizing it, that is absolutely why I just can't stand reading books anymore, because I have these such visual, like these incredible visions, and like I just want to see it. I just want it to be a movie. I just want it to be a visual piece of
Yeah,
media.
I gotcha.
I'm just so used to, maybe just because I'm used to it or whatever. But I do distinctly, before I was even as big of an anime fan as I am, reading like Far from the Madding Crowd, which was like a summer reading assignment, but I actually got really into it because the prose was so descriptive or just cinematic or whatever, and I'm just visualizing it, and it's like, man, I really want a particular. It's like I'm thinking of an OP for it, and the way that like I'm just like seeing this all in my head, and the clincher is that like I enjoy that, and that was a cool thing for me, but I can't necessarily share that with somebody else because it's in my head. And that's what the prose elicited to me, and it's not going to necessarily do that for another person if I say, "Hey, you should read this book." At least that's always been my kind of perspective about it ever since I realized that. That was just like, wow, this is an incredible visual I have in my head, and what, I'm just going to draw it? Am I just going to make my own fucking movie? Like, what? No. I don't know. I guess that's why I've ultimately really gravitated towards visual media, and even in adaptations, I think it's really exciting when something isn't panel for panel, and they're doing something interesting with the direction, or they're shifting an event around to make it fit an episode. To be like, oh, it makes sense to have it over here at this moment because like having actual changes like that.
Yeah, like actually adapting it to the new medium as
Right.
opposed to just like transposing
Instead
it
of
almost.
just-
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, we've done the pages. We've done exactly that many, and fucking panel for panel, kill me. It's like I would just fucking read it at that point. It's like, yeah, I guess I guess it added color and sound. Thanks. Thanks.
No, yeah, like I've actually run into that a couple times with the Wanna video where it's like so like even if they, because I read the manga but I'm using the anime visuals because I'm fucking lazy and fucking manga editing is hell.
Yeah,
Like
of course.
but then the problem I run into is like because I've actually had to use manga panels a couple times, not because like it wasn't, not even that it wasn't animated or badly, or it was animated badly or anything, but just like it's animated in a way that doesn't necessarily like there was one thing I talk about with the moon, like because the Kozuki surname has the kanji for the moon in it, and they use the moon a lot to symbolize Odin. And there I talk about 3 instances where it's like one where the scabbards are facing off with Kaido, and Kaido is what's separating them from reaching Odin, and Kaido's literally eclipsing the moon. And the way they show that in the anime is really cool because it's like he's like flying and he's twirling in the moon, and the moon's kind of reddish, and then you see the scabbards facing him and like the light shining on them. So it's like they're still doing it, but it's in 2 cuts, and the way I script it doesn't fit the way that it's shown in the anime. So I just said fuck it, and I just used the manga panel. And then for those 3 instances, or at least 2 of those, the ones I was listing. So it's just like, because and there's another one with how they sort of structured the finale, because like how Oda does it with chapter 1049 and 1050 is like 1049 is where Luffy beats Kaido, and then 1050 is like the emotional climax that puts a lot of weight onto Toko, and where the anime
that
sort of flips
episode was
things
so
around.
good.
Oh no, yeah, like I love how
That
it
episode
looks really
whipped
cool how they do it in
ass.
the anime, but like I'm also kind of stressed like how kind of, because like Toko and Yasu have like their role in Wano, and like is Yasu's has a big weight in Act 2, but they are kind of small, and yet they're given so much emotional weight and so and I kind of wanted to stress that, which is why I wrote it in the script that way. But again, the anime didn't adapt it that way, so it's like, well, I gotta use the manga again, even though like again, the anime does a good job with it. It's just not the idea that I'm talking
because
about
because the
necessarily.
focus
Yeah.
because your argument was that it's a small focus that they have,
or it's like there's small characters that are given a bigger focus in the manga, where the anime makes them more equal, I guess, or or like it changes it, and again, which again isn't a bad thing. It's just like
right,
different from the idea that I'm
different
trying to talk
perspective,
about.
different
So,
handling
so
of the character, right?
which
In the point
so
that
it's
you're
just like
making.
and especially because I'm like see what I'm worried about now, because the way you talk about the One Piece anime is like and it's a silly worry. Don't worry, or don't. It's
Sure.
fine. But it's like because if I watch the One Piece anime and it becomes my favorite anime, like I don't like it's not that like, and it's not out of a dislike or anything, but it's just like because obviously I'm Craftsdwarf. Like at a point I just stopped like using One Piece as my identity, because I love it. It's my favorite story ever. It's phenomenal. But I also like these other things. Even though like, yeah, well, I think One Piece is probably the thing I have the most on my channel. So if my favorite manga and my favorite anime are both One Piece, then I'm just fucked. Like no, I just look like the biggest like One Piece fucking loser.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, but I'm
right.
not. But what about Aikatsu and Sword Art Online and fucking Chihayafuru? Like I love all those series
Crafts,
too.
I have that. I actually have this out because, well, I'm not as big into manga, I guess, and the current. If I was to pick a favorite manga, it would be something that is never going to be adapted, which is Kaiji Part 5.
Yeah.
And the other thing to me is I have an all-time favorite anime that is not One Piece, and the only reason it's not One Piece is because One Piece isn't done. But I know as soon as it finishes and it is complete, and it has fucking the end, and that's the whole fucking thing.
That's fair.
I would be high not to put it as my all-time.
See, I've been wondering about that because I know you've said you fucking love One Piece, but I haven't gotten, at least from like what I've seen you talking about, like where does it rank in like your favorite shows? Because obviously I know Absolute Joe is your favorite. Holy, I didn't know that. Oh
yeah.
Boy,
dude, it shot up to 2 by like 1 or 7.
And one of the things I love about that is because you talked about this in the first Piss Pirates, where it's like you're not coming at it as this gateway anime, which that's what it was for me, because I watched the 4Kids dub and that got me interested in it. Then I found out about censorship. I just started watching it online on YouTube in 3-part, because you couldn't upload more than 15 minutes, so it was like 3-part episodes, and like that's how I got into One Piece, right? But you're coming at it from like you talked about how you watch so many other Battle Shonen and so many other anime, and it's like
pretty much every other one.
It's not just good because it was your first one. It's good because it is
the best
good.
one.
And I'm just like,
it is just the best one.
Like, and because part of me is like, because I see so many people who like want the validation, which is why they latch on to people who are going at it the first time, because they kind of get to vicariously see, enjoy it again. But they're also seeing someone like, especially like someone like maybe Alexander, or like I've seen some people talk about some book YouTubers who like they read all these. Yes, thank you. That's the one I was thinking. One of the ones I was thinking of. Right. So like, Grant the Thief was another one who I felt like people were really like latching onto this person going through One Piece, and because they're talking positive about it, and like again they get that vicarious enjoy and the validation, because especially like and so like part of me is like I'm above that, because I don't latch on to these people. But then you you do it, and I'm like, well, fuck, I guess I'm not above it all, am I? So there's a funny anecdote I have, because you were talking about like One Piece being less popular in the mid 2000s, because like you didn't mention the 4Kids dub fucking killed it, basically. Like it stabbed it.
It stunted it.
It took so long. It took so long for it to like that wound to heal, basically. Because here's the anecdote: so I was in my anime club in high school, and we were going around, and they were like, "We're gonna suggest like manga for the library to stock," and I was like, "One Piece," and people laughed. People fucking laughed at me.
That's like the Jaya scene. That's like the fucking Jaya scene of them like everyone laughing.
Right. I didn't think about it. And the president who was going around asking, she was like, "Oh, funny pirate show series," and it's like I was like, dude, I was not as into the anime club after that, and now I win. Who's laughing now?
Yeah. God,
like,
I can't
Wano
imagine that.
It's fucking insane. I mean, fucking the Netflix was a big deal.
Whoopi Goldberg is talking about One Piece
on fucking national television. Like, who's laughing now, motherfuckers?
Yeah,
I had to
yeah.
share that because it's so funny. It's
No, yeah.
so fucking funny.
It is ridiculous where like, and because I wrote this before. Well, I actually didn't. I was watching One Piece by the time I was writing my Battle Shonen video. Um, but I was still like in the middle of it or whatever. But I talk about how the real formula of Battle Shonen is 4 components of sports, fantasy, or sci-fi, whatever you want to do, whatever focus you have.
Mhm.
Bancho, so like
Yep.
Otogibiki, and comedy gags. And
Okay.
the only two manga in Shonen Jump that have all 4 of those is Dragon Ball and One Piece.
Okay. Yeah.
And One Piece
Okay.
didn't. And the difference between the two was Toriyama just kind of fell into it. I think I said this at this Pirates, where like he was just kind of he got Doctor Slump off of like a contest because he didn't really want to work. And he's like, yeah, let's try this manga thing, and he happened to be kind of good at it. He was never really an assist. I don't think he was ever an assistant to anybody, right?
No, so yeah, no, you were talking about how he's like kind of an outsider because I'm pretty sure the
Yeah,
only manga he's mentioned as an influence are like Astro Boy, which
right.
shows in a lot of like his meta humor and all.
Yeah,
But and then the other one is I think Ringni Kakuro, where so there's actually a translated letter from him to Kuramada where he's
Kuramada.
talking
Holy
about like
shit.
liking that like basically like wanting to draw something like that. And I'm pretty sure that letter was sent around the time like early Dragon Ball, and he
Yeah,
eventually did draw something like that by transforming Dragon
exactly.
Ball. So that was
No,
like, but
yeah,
that's like a contemporary. That's a little different.
no, for
Where yeah, a
sure.
lot of the stuff he references are like Hollywood movies and tokusatsu. Like that's what he like is
Hmm.
into, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you're
and
on the nose there.
then yeah, Oda is an assistant and like a denizen of Shonen Jump, and
Right.
like kind of
Yeah.
grew up with it and came off of Dragon Ball and all these other things. And so, but then he just seems to be the only one that knows how to do comedy and a battle shonen and not just lean too far one way or the other. Because even Toriyama kind of dropped the comedy
No, it's like
after
yeah.
seeing.
Kinnikuman, hello.
Well,
You
yeah,
see?
I mean, Kinnikuman also like yeah. That's to be fair. I've only really seen Ultimate Muscle and like I closed captioned Ultimate Muscle and because then what's tough about with that one is that it's still kind of in that realm of like sports and the prototype type of thing, whereas that fourth element of like kind of what Hokuto no Ken does, where it's martial arts, but it takes it out of the ring, out of like
I gotcha.
there's still a rule set in Hokuto no Ken, and there's still like a power system and everything, and it's still gamified, but it's not in a tournament setting, and it's similar with One Piece where there's rules, even though there's pirates, there are no rules. There is a system to everything, and there's a logic to the way everything works, and yet there's not. It's
Okay.
not a sports series. Whereas I feel like Kinnikuman is still kind of like
Yeah, I mean for
trapped
sure.
exclusively to
It's
tournaments and matches.
it's little yeah a wrestling thing like
Yeah, it's
a
purely
superpowered
wrestling.
wrestling thing. Like there's some
Yeah, it
goofy
still
ass
has
shit that
powers.
happens
It's
in it.
still
Yeah.
really,
Oh yeah.
really influential. It's really important,
Yeah.
informative, and definitely funny. You're absolutely right that like it's easily the closest again to like a balance of serious drop. But if anything, it's a little too goofy, right? Maybe it leads a little too much of the comedy more so than I don't. Has anyone ever
Um,
really like cried at Ultimate Muscle or
Um,
Kinnikuman?
so
I
so
cry
here's
every
what
Wow.
I've
time I read
heard. So
Kinnikuman.
here's what
Yeah.
I've heard because I've only read the original 36 volume run. Apparently, the continuation stuff I've heard it called like some of the best shonen. Period.
Yeah, like it whips
So
ass, and that's what's
yeah,
being
I'm
like
kind of
adapted
curious as
by
to how. Yeah.
IG, I believe. Like Production IG is adapting it.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
no, it was just announced like very recently, which is
Yeah,
I'm really curious, especially now that finally fucking Nisei is like translated the manga
yeah,
because like obviously it's not fully like I can't just watch like the Kinnikuman anime isn't fully translated. I can't watch all of it. I don't think, and
Yeah,
so
they
so
only
I'd rather yeah.
have all of like the canon stuff for the original translated, but they didn't finish like the filler. So like it's episodes like 1 through 80, I think, or something like
Oh
that.
wow, I
And
didn't
then
know
it's
that.
like they didn't do the filler yet, but then they have like the next anime that adapts like the final arc. So if you
Yeah, like
just
the
wanted to
sequel.
watch the manga like canon shit, you could, but you couldn't like
Or you
watch
mean
the
past
filler
the
arcs
kaiju
for the
extermination
original.
stuff, or because that like or like or I don't know what the first. Yeah, I don't know.
I've only taken a cursory glance at the arcs of original, and then having to do Nisei, which is more of a it is the original Boruto. It's the original Boruto because it's very much like it's the sequel, and
I found it
oh,
interesting.
haha,
that,
the old
like,
protagonist is a dad now.
Kinnikuman low
old.
key did both Boruto and Super before Naruto
Yeah.
and Dragon Ball.
Absolutely.
Oh fuck, you're right. I didn't
Yeah.
think of
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because the
Damn.
Kinnikuman continuation was 3 years before Battle of the Gods. So yeah, absolutely. So
And still going too, right?
no, Kinnikuman's still going. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still the current run. Is it weekly or monthly?
Oh,
I
by
do
the
not
way,
know that much.
the original anime, it's episode 1 through 19 that's translated, and then like the
Okay.
Scramble for the Throne that's within like a different, technically a different anime series is translated, but like the
Right.
last 2 arcs of the original series isn't translated, which is filler.
Gotcha. And then all the Ultraman parody shit, like all that. Because I did try reading Kinnikuman. Good lord,
it's so rough. Like
it's incomprehensible. I don't think it's obviously it's not in good quality. Like the scans are crap and the translation is crap. I don't know how much that would make a difference though, because a lot of it is very irreverent and like, turn in next week. Who knows when I'll get axed? Like, type
no, it's
like
very,
me and Roboco energy, where it's like, hey, if we get axed tomorrow, we had a good run. I'm okay with that. You know, that's fine.
It was. There's a reason Kinnikuman and Gintama were like the 1-2 punch that like fucking killed the energy on the Nen show for so long. Like it's like, and I came away from Kinnikuman liking it. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot to it, that especially that early part, that especially the early stuff. That's rough. It's rough.
And you see, it's like, and you see, that's definitely why Gintama is a good example of like that, of a great, like, people calling that their favorite battle shonen, because it does have those 4 components, I would say. The only problem is that the comedy part is divisive. It's sort of like you either like the comedy or you don't.
Right, like, because I know Vindy likes the comedy because Gintama is his favorite anime, but like,
and then if you like the comedy, that shit's the best shit ever, and that's great. I'm not there like either. The comedy. I did not like.
Yeah, so just unfortunate because it's like
all day. It's just bonsai. All right. I did actually make an entire journal for that. When I watched it, I watched like 1 episode a day, and I literally like wrote a journal as I watched it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like just of notes and takeaways, or
just observations, and because I was the intention of making a video about it. But
I've just started doing that for everything. Like I literally have notes for everything I've encountered since I started YouTube. So
that's cool.
I
started a new system actually, which I really like. With certain series that, especially ones that are episodic, like Dali the Witch, Ako-chan, Manga Sekai. I know that there's especially when I watch these anime, all 3 of those are raw. I know when I do that, it's all going to turn into one big blur for me. And I'm not going to remember special moments or what episode was that or whatever. So what I've done is, like, when I go episode, all I do is set what is the episode. I kind of describe what the episode is, like, not like the official title, but like my description of it is like, oh, it's the ballet episode or whatever. And then I give it one of my 4 ratings. Like all my anime on Kitsu, I rate either great, good, meh, or awful. I just give my feeling, like how am I feeling about that episode. It's like, oh, that was a great episode, that was a good episode, whatever. And then maybe some notes afterward, like a little bullet point or something. But that's just so that, like, whenever I want to revisit it, or if I want to like recommend people episodes or something, I can be like, check this shit out. Like, this episode whips at, like, so good. Stuff like that. That's the most I've been doing with, like, because the other thing, right, I don't want to have that anime YouTuber mentality where, will I turn this into a video? Kind of watching it for content. And I think it was Anime Man that was like, if you're watching an anime and not going to turn it into a video, are you Are you even
Yeah.
watching it, or is like, what's the point, or something? I think he said something along those lines. It's like, God, literal, yeah.
Well, that's something I've actually kind of been grappling with because like during my hiatus, I was literally thinking like, do I want to do this anymore? And I think what I kind of came around to is just that like, because I'm still gonna keep engaging with media because I really like, I just really like art, but I'm also like insane because I'm like I started reading fucking books and it's like there's so many media, like I want to be into everything, but I know there isn't enough time, but I'm still fucking crazy enough to try apparently. But it's like what I realize is that like I don't know, people seem to like my takeaways from stuff, and if I just like hold like, and one of my beliefs is also regarding knowledge, like I think you mentioned something about my like the way I write my videos, like you said something like, oh, a lot of shonen analysis you've seen tends to be like pretentious, or I forget exactly how you said it, but I remember you saying something in that vein. And what I how so like basically it's like what I try to like I make my videos understandable because I want people to understand them, or I make this try to make things simple, and it's like, so I want to like, if I have an interest, something that I think is interesting, and I just hold on to it, then that's not like helpful necessarily, like even if like not very many people watch the video, like my fucking Monster Hunter video where it's like I don't even think it has 5K views, even though I like worked on it for like 10 months. I replayed the whole game. I read like fucking academic books and papers. I read Golden Kamuy because it's like related to like Japan's history of colonialism with the colonization of Hokkaido basically, and Gate, which I wanted to get like one of the more modern, like because that has a sort of colonial narrative too, and so I did like all this research, all this stuff, and I'm still like I think it's a good fucking video, but like no one watched it, and I'm like, oh well, like whatever. Like I just kind of have to roll with that, and
I'm reeling from a bomb myself with my Zelda.
Yeah, you did mention that, and it's like, and because it's a good, like, especially like I was even thinking about it where it's like because that video was really nice to watch, not just because it was a good video, but also like because we followed it, like getting in a hot bath is nice, but getting in a hot bath after coming out of the fucking rainy shit is even better, and that's what it was like watching that Nux Taku video and then watching your video.
Yeah. It's
but it's
it is a bomb. BALM. Not BOMB. It is a bomb.
That's funny.
Kind of
but I also think because I ran into that with I remember so ages ago I did a video because like the Chaos Child anime was coming out, and I was like, I like the Chaos Head visual novel, so I'm gonna replay it and make a video on it, and I did, and no one gave a shit. And I remember like literally sitting in my chair just kind of like feeling like down about it, and then what I kind of came around to was like, I'm glad I made the video because I thought it was an interesting video, and I think some people got some stuff out of it, because like I guess like that's the nice thing is my channel is big enough where like I literally like the last two videos I uploaded had like huge gaps in between them, and like my new one was like has gotten a few thousand views, which is I'm satisfied. It was kind of like a quick like I need to get back into this. Oh god, I haven't edited a video in 2 years, kind of thing. So I just like kind of relearning stuff. And then the Dragon Ball video was a fucking accident because I'm just like I had the script lying around. Oh, I'll have Nunmanji edit it. It'll be fine. And then now it has fucking almost 150K views, and I'm like, why this one? Because it's Dragon Ball. It's good.
Yeah.
No,
like
it's
video,
because
but
of
it's
me.
like
I'm taking all the credit.
It seems
fair.
all me. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm low-key like there was an instance with Roger Smith 2004 where he made like kind of an off script kind of rant about just kind of talking about Mystic Chronexia's Six Seals or whatever, like that animation project.
That was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yes. And it blew up to be his like most popular video by a fucking long shot. No contest. And so I don't want that happening to me, where I put out mid and it does well. I would never fucking make a video again. Like I would just be mortified to me, and not to say that the Roger video was mid or anything. Of course not. It was just more like, clearly if he puts all this effort into his Ergo Proxy series and then he takes a little break and then tries to do this little commentary thing, and that's what YouTube picks up, like that's so
right. Yeah.
I could not handle that. So it's like, it's to me, at the very least, I want to make sure that I'm putting out videos. I if they do blow up, I am proud of them. I'm like, good, cool. I like that
Absolutely,
video.
no, for sure.
But
Like, cause
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. Cause like the Netflix video, it's like, it was fine. It was very much kind of like rushed. Like, and as I was doing, I was like, the script needs work, the voiceover needs work, the editing needs work. But it's like, I'm more interested in the Wano video, and I'm kind of out of practice. So it's like I just kind of just let it go because, and so
right.
like I'm still satisfied with it. Like I think I had some neat things to say, and like one thing I'm also like just the dumb fucking jokes, like it doesn't, I don't care if people find them funny. If they go like, what the fuck was that? Like that's funny to me too. Like the
Yeah.
fucking dumb, like with Emu be like, oh, they're gonna be fucked later
Oh,
on
with
when they find out
Mary,
what Oda's
yeah.
been cooking.
No, for
Because
me
like
that
they,
was for me. It's like they're kicking themselves if they cut Gaiman, and it's gonna be like the entire thematic crux of the story. That it's like, hey,
yeah.
you might get to Laugh Tale and there's nothing there, and that's what they were laughing at. And the only reason we
Oh
know it's
god.
probably not nothing is because he says that we were too early. I think that's
Yeah.
the only thing that clinches it, is like, okay, it's not that somebody just stumbled upon the island, without the compass or whatever, without the log post. They just washed up on Laugh Tale. We're like, oh, that's cool, and like did something to it. It's not what it was or something. It's gonna be something. I feel like it's gonna be
Man.
something like that.
Oh man, it got like yeah, I'm very curious, but yeah, so like I've just been, and like that was another thing I liked about the Netflix video, is that like I did kind of just want to make it a little different, because I'm also, because like I just get tired of doing so, like a while ago I would do like, I watch a thing, I get something interesting out of it, so I'll just make a video explaining the interesting thing, and then I got tired of that, like and then so I've been trying to do, and I got some other stuff in mind where it's like obviously the Wano video is definitely more of a standard, well kind of, even then kind of I'm doing something structurally, because the title of the video is like Wano, an analysis in 3 acts, and oh wait, did I cut out?
No, I hear you.
Okay, my
I
I think
want
my
on three
earbuds are
X.
dying.
Oh,
Yeah, so because basically my idea is like, because I had so much to say about the arc that I sort of divide the video into 3 separate smaller video essays, but there's also something more overarching to that I end on. So it's like I'm doing a normal Craftsdwarf video, but I'm also like, there's a spin on it basically, because I want to be creatively fulfilled, right? So and that's just something I have to, yeah, I don't know, I'm just talking, shooting the shit, I guess.
here I am just shooting the shit. No, you're talking about your channel's future, and I like hearing about that, or what your intentions
Yeah.
and goals are.
And yet, no, I have a lot of video ideas, and some of them more ambitious than others, and yeah, it's, I don't know, I'm looking ahead, and it's just like I feel like everything I have in mind that I might want to make, it looks like satisfying, like I feel, because I want, I don't know, I definitely like the idea of my videos, like just I want them to be interesting or have some sort of purpose, that like they add something to the discussion, and I'm looking at all of them and I'm like, damn, I have quite a bit to add, I guess. I don't know, like just so many topics, and I'm
Yeah,
really, I don't know, I'm excited to get back into YouTube, is more, I guess, my thought. So yeah.
certainly. You can argue why it doesn't just get good at Arlong Park. It's good from way earlier than that. Excuse
Oh,
you.
I see. I actually have videos like that. Just I haven't really thought of doing it for One Piece. But like, because there's other stuff where I feel like people shit on the beginning parts. And the two ones specifically that I have in mind are, one is part 1 of JoJo, where it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's not one of my favorite parts, but like I reread it and I was like, this is it. Like the fucking stuff between Jonathan and Nadio is so, like, I kept pulling stuff out and being like, there's a lot to this.
Yeah.
And the other one is, so last year I played Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative, which are visual novels. I don't know if you've heard much about them. I do
Right.
know, like,
Yeah, of
alternatives
course.
get like, and they instantly became like one of my favorite stories of all time. Like I fucking
Nice.
love it. But like Muv-Luv Alternative's like a sci-fi thing, and Muv-Luv Extra, the first half of the first visual novel, is like a harem rom-com thing, and a lot of people just shit on it. And it's
Yeah.
like, and I played it and it's like, no, this is solid, this is good. Like on if it Muv-Luv was just this, I'd be like, yeah, this is perfectly fine and I'm satisfied for my time here. And it's like, it's called like and it's like, no, I need to fucking defend it, because people are so, like, even excluding like what it adds to the whole, like on its own it's just good. So it's like, I'm just
Yeah.
so sick of people doing that shit. you know
Yeah,
uh
that's great. Yeah, a big fan of stuff like that. And
Mhm.
meanwhile, the only
Um,
stuff that gets like significantly popular for me, but with some
uh,
exceptions, I guess, is like all the negative shit. Slam Dunk
people
gets
love that. Like
Slam Dunk
I'm
gets
honestly,
canceled. Berserk's unadaptable. I watched all Loop on the Third and regretted it.
yep, yep. I'm honestly thinking about just fucking like I mean I guess it's not getting as many views these days, but I just think about like is this the day I unlist this tirade on Fairy Tail, which are just they're just garbage videos that people
Right.
love because they're negative. Like it doesn't matter. They don't care about whether the points are good. They just care
Whether
if
it's
they
good,
agree with it,
wrong.
and it's like it's or
Mm.
I hate it. I
You
hate it.
still have
Hate
no.
it.
You still have your integrity at least that much because, at least like to me, I still mostly stand by those all three of those videos I mentioned from on
Uh-huh.
my end. But it's just so transparent that that's the case, and so it's like that's the kind of expectation I'm going into when making this encyclopedia video next, which is going to be
Mhm.
probably the
Mm.
most critical and like reaming of a
Oh,
video I put
I
on the
just
main channel.
so like yeah I've only seen like maybe 4 or 5 stream or no like a handful
That's
of streams and
probably
like just
plenty,
like
right? That's probably
some of their takes are just fucking like what are, like every time someone
unbelievable, right?
credits like transforming hero stuff to Sailor Moon, it's like I'm pulling out my fucking hair. It's like come
Yeah,
on, what do you
yeah,
like? Or like
yeah,
the when you're like, oh, there's one mention of Common Rider in this book,
yeah.
one
A
one of the
single
most
one.
important franchises in the entire fucking country's media landscape, and they talk
Yeah.
about it once. Are you kidding me?
They don't
How
even
can
talk about it.
what?
They name it. They name it. They
Oh,
say it once.
this show references Kamen Rider. Yeah,
Yeah,
so do
yeah,
a lot of the other ones you're talking about, but
yeah.
you don't bring that up, do you?
You don't care. You don't know,
Oh my
or maybe they
goodness.
do because it's not an anime that they can link to. Like fucking like they the reason
They
they
bring
name
up
drop so
Ultraman,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, the reason they name drop all this stuff is that it's an article that they can then link you to a different part of the book. But the
Ah,
problem so you bounce around the book and you keep reading it, kind of like
right.
YouTube keeping you around and having you watch as long as possible.
Oh,
Only the problem they have is
gotcha.
that they reference so many of the same titles, like Tenchi Muyo and Urusei Yatsura, over and over and over, and this using the same examples. It's kind of ineffective when you're never gonna name some of these other titles that you definitely could have because they're way more relevant and topical. They're like compared to Banner Tail the Squirrel. They say that so often because when it's like a talking animal show, even
Hmm.
when even when there's a title that's from the same author as Gamba no Boken, and they don't mention Gamba that it's the same author. It's like it's right there, guys. It's right there. And it's so funny like listing the titles that they name drop for some of these like Summer Wars or Steam Boy. It's like here's all the titles they mention in their article about Summer Wars, and then if you just hear them in isolation, you're like, what the fuck? Why are they taught? Why do they bring this title up? Right? It's so funny. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, Summer Wars. Summer Wars is Ghost in the Shell for the Facebook generation.
No, what?
And,
No.
and then the titles they mention are Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Digimon Bokurado War Game, Ghost in the Shell, Boo Boo Cha Cha, Pokemon,
Uh,
Howl's Moving Castle,
well,
Sky Crawlers, Tokyo Godfathers, Star of the Giants,
what?
My Neighbor Totoro.
See, at first I was like, okay, Mamoru Hosoda, right?
Right,
Okay,
right. It's like,
you already mentioned the Ghost
wait,
in the
what's
Shell one,
that?
and then you just
Yeah.
kept going, and it's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
And there's some reason for some of them, but it's like
Well, I'm sure it makes sense in context, but
yeah,
even then, it's like, and the
but it's
reason for it of just like linking to their other, God,
yeah,
because like, what's
it,
Boo Boo Cha Cha? I
boy.
better go read the Boo Boo Cha Cha article. Like,
right. And to be fair, like there's some instances of that where it's like, wow, that's actually a title I've never heard of, and they mention that a lot, and that makes their article about it is very interesting. And I like that they were able to kind of give that title a platform, whereas next to zero name recognition, it's not fucking Pokemon, right? That's good. That's cool. But it just is so transparent when that's all they reference. They mention certain titles like 20 fucking times. They always bring up Street Fighter 2 whenever it's a fighting game adaptation. They always bring up Cat's Eye anytime there's a thief involved.
Hmm.
it's so transparent sometimes that they keep bringing these same ones up, and it's all, especially like, Hayao Miyazaki. You saw that in our chat where people
Yep.
are kind of clowning on how often they. So that the full lore to that is they straight up in their Pompoko article bring up they name drop Hayao Miyazaki, but they don't mention Isao Takahata once. They talk about
So, they
yeah, yeah, and especially like their Pandaco Panda article, they're so insistent that it's all Hayao Miyazaki, it's all because he did write it, but I think they slightly mention that Isao Takahata directed it, but that's kind of a big deal. That director of the anime,
yeah, maybe a
kind of a
little.
big deal, right? And this isn't some unknown fucking name. It's Isao Takahata. And it's insane how I actually went through it, and like every single Miyazaki anime without fail, they bring him up at least once. But Takahata, nope, not the
Oh,
case.
yeah.
And it's the same
I
thing
think
with
you also mentioned how they
Mizaki,
don't bring up Zazaki very much, right?
No,
Or do they
no.
bring up a lot? No, they're
not that
yep.
often. No. It's so weird. It's just there's straight up staff erasure in this to me. And it's like, and especially like I haven't done the full compilation of it, but like I want to like compile all the times they bring up Leiji Matsumoto, because I'm pretty sure it's always negative. Like it's almost
Oh,
always like very like sour, because he doesn't have any. He just keeps like rehashing his old ideas and shit. Like that's all they can seem to bring up about him, which is so strange because Helen McCarthy clearly loves Leiji Matsumoto from the articles that I've
mhm.
seen from her that are not in the anime encyclopedia. And then you read the encyclopedia and he sounds like a hack to me. He just
Yeah, and
comes
I think
off that way.
and I think you also mentioned something that's a little kind of like odd, where it's like they'll bring up like in the K-On! Article they talk about it positively, but then every other time they bring it up they're like fucking shitting on it or being like kind of
Moe.
snide about it,
Yeah.
or yeah, right, where it's like
Moe
it just
being
feels kind of
they
two-faced, right?
classify it as erotica. Moe. Just cute girls doing cute things because it's really only being made for guys to fap to or whatever.
Yeah, that I yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's which but
It's just clownish behavior. But yeah, so that's
no,
gonna be an
yeah.
hour of that. It's gonna be kind of, so I'm just kind of anticipating it like a sort of a ContraPoints or H Bomber guy style.
Oh, I was thinking like 5 hours.
And no, well, I mean, the
I
idea
mean,
was to
could
make a
you?
succinct. The idea was to make a succinct
Okay, succinct.
video.
Gotcha.
It's not
All
going
right.
to bring up every last point that I found in this thing. And the stream
Yeah, that's
series
yeah.
was so that if you want more, or to kind of demonstrate that I really did go through all of it and you want to see everything,
Right.
here are my notes. Here's the streams. That's the idea. But the ultimate end goal is like, here are the results of that expedition. Here's what we found. And yeah, it's so interconnected and multi-layered, and it's a matter of like balancing how many examples I show and which examples do I show, because the last
Mhm.
thing I want to do is make it seem like I'm cherry picking.
Yeah, that's kind of
You
what
know?
where I was like thinking, where it's like that's like the balancing act there, because I've also, I mean, I have not rewatched it, so I'm not, and I know some of the points don't hold up, but like that was a concern I had with like the Super High Batch Wolf critique, where it's like, I have my issues with this channel and I want to like be very clear and respectful, like I like, because I talked
Yeah.
to him about it and he like he or how he didn't like the video, but like he respected it, he had respect for it, and I was glad for that, right? Because he didn't
Right.
have to watch it. Like my stance on critique is that like because I think people have this idea with critique where it's like, oh, you have to bring it all in and take it because you're getting advice that's helping you, and some people are
Yeah.
like that, but especially when you consider
Those
how
people
so
have
little.
never made anything
No,
that have
exactly,
given
like because
that have given critique. Yeah.
that's my
That's
stance, is like, because I don't care to listen to any critique about me, like because there was a Craftsdwarf critique video. The most recent video I talked about was my Luffy video, and at that point it was like 2 years old, so it's like, why did you even do this video when it's so late? Like you're talking
yeah.
about videos that I was literally at the time trashing my own fairy tale tirade. Like I'm also Craftsdwarf critiquing
Like
while
self
just
critical,
like,
right?
Yeah, so it's like, what are you like? I don't. This video's outlived its purpose, which is really unfortunate because it seemed like he was working on it for years and he put a lot of time into it. But
Oof.
it's just like I watched some of it and I'm like, this is just not helpful to me, right? But I don't, and
Oh,
I just have that
devastating.
mindset of like, but like part of the reason I made the Super High Wolf video I did is that like even if he doesn't watch it, hopefully other people can get something out of it because it's like and like
Exactly. The reason
because
I want
yeah,
to ultimately make this video, even though both of these books are incredibly archaic and no one's ever going to really read them again because they're
not yeah
physical
yeah
printed data, like just it's just you could go to MAL or ANN, which if they get something wrong, it could actually be corrected. These are physically
right.
printed. They're never going to be corrected again. So they're always going to say that Akitaro Daichi directed Cardcaptor Sakura when he didn't. They mention it twice. They bring it up twice. They're like the director of Card in like a different anime that he did direct. They're like from the director of Card Captors. Yeah, it's
twice
like
so far. They could
no,
hit you with the fucking hook at the end there.
Yeah, I guess
like,
so. I guess you're right. Yeah, but no, right? So like I get it. These are archaic books. But the reason they fascinate me so much is the way that they can be wrong in this, like the fact that these sorts of takes or these choices to make it to include your opinion in an encyclopedic entry, and how valuable are people's opinions really when we're talking about, like, does it really matter whether, I think it does matter that first of all that you do like the thing that you're talking about. I think that this, like, because
at
all
least
I think
come to it with
analysis,
respect, right?
yes, because analysis
Like,
is subjective, and analysis is ultimately kind of a subjective thing, and so you're going to be coming in from your own biases, experiences, and your opinion.
mhm.
uh yeah, it is possible for you to not like something and talk about it, but I think there's way more likelihood that you're going to talk about it and say something unfaithful, like in a unfaithful way, or in an you interpreted it wrong or something. I just don't trust someone that didn't like the thing praising it or giving it this, like, understanding or analysis or something if they didn't even like the thing.
Mhm.
I kind of get funky feelings about it. I don't really trust it.
Okay,
I
because I
find
mean,
I as a viewer, I have a hard time trusting it personally.
okay, because like the only time I remember, like, or at least recently, um, because I don't know if you ever watched my Gridman problem video, which kind of discusses both the original Tokusatsu series and SSSS Gridman,
Yeah.
where my kind of angle with that video was like I kind of didn't really like the original Gridman, but having watched it added a lot to my watch through of SSSS Gridman for the first time. So I kind of wanted to like do that video to like talk about what my takeaways were for having done that, and also maybe like at least try it, because just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you might not like it, So it's
Yeah.
like, but yeah, I don't know what how you would like, and it's been a while since I made that video, so yeah, I don't know how
Right.
that like
So
ties into
it's
what you were saying.
Well, that's
But
tough. Where because like and now it's like what do we want to we what do we want out of an encyclopedic entry, or like if
mhm,
we're because there's a video project I'm working on. It'll be released in the middle of next month. And I'm
ooh,
coming from a perspective of like why should you care about this title? It's not, or I guess it could be kind of an eye patch, like why you should watch or whatever. And
mhm,
first of all, it certainly wouldn't help if you didn't actually like it and you're still trying to recommend it to people, right? It's
mhm,
just so like, but you didn't like it, you know. So I think there's at the end of the day, there does have to be
that's
that,
fair.
like, I just like, yeah, it is sweet and entertaining or whatever. Um, but I guess it's like there's so much you can analyze and talk about and describe to get an understanding of this title without inserting your opinion.
That's also, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, fuck, museums do it. Whenever whenever you go into a museum and you see this painting or whatever, the little card on the side, um, it tells you about the artist, and the time that at the time that they painted this, they were going through a divorce,
Mhm.
or whatever. You're actually giving quantifiable information about it that you wouldn't have gotten from the piece itself, from just kind of seeing it blindly or whatever, fresh.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
encyclopedia is the equivalent of going to a museum, and it's these like art pieces that you've never seen before, and the card on the side of it just is like, "This thing sucks, by the way." You know, it's like it certainly doesn't disqualify you from being a museum, just like how people kind of say they've made it. People have made the argument, like the contest. Obviously, the opinions are very contentious, and so people have tried to say that, like, you know, it doesn't count as an encyclopedia if it has opinions. I disagree with that, but you know, that wouldn't disqualify the museum from being a museum. It would just be a really shitty museum.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Like if the whole point of this encyclopedia is to better understand and appreciate and like
Inform
learn
the viewer of what
but
these
then,
titles are. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like, but you're also just like, but this, I agree. Yeah, that's something.
You're
Fuck.
just kind of defeating the point, or you're just making it about whether it's good or not. And there was a point when the podcast when they were promoting this book where people were like, "Well, I wish we knew what all the anime was," and then they're like, "Well, here's a book with all the anime," and they're like, "I wish we knew which ones we should watch. Where's the fantasy?" And I'm like, "These people are narcs, John. Don't cater to them. Don't tell them that. Just fucking let them decide. Let them make their own decisions. They're big boys, you know. Let them, like, you know, discover and explore for themselves. Fucking most people are not gonna look through this book and read a random entry that they've never heard of before. Most of them are going to be like, "What they say about Dragon Ball," and fucking put the book away and never touch it again. Like, I'm sorry, that is kind of what most people are instinctively going to do. So that's the beauty of having read this whole thing, because there are some entries that I would have never read otherwise if I was just trying to, you know, get all the hits or what they say about this title or something and trying to dig dirt. The best way to do it is just to read all of it and to find some of these absolutely appalling entries of anime that I've literally never heard about. There's this one like little like fairy type thing, I forget the name of it, and they say, "Oh, she lives in a forest, both of the apparently we're supposed to care." Like they give the premise of this show, and then they say, "Apparently, we're supposed to care." And I have that in my video. Like I have that as an example because there's that as well as many other cases where it was a title I had never heard of before, and then they say something dismissive like that, and I had this instinct to just defend it. You know, like that army man. You know that army man meme of, like, you know, defending the little child from the arrows and knives and shit.
I see people shit on stuff that I've never heard of, and I suddenly want to watch it and be like, "No, motherfucker!"
Yeah,
just, and it's probably I might not even like it, but there's just that instinct of just like just seeing someone being so bad faith and dismissive because I know I grew up in the fucking 4Kids era, liking One Piece, like the post 4Kids era, and just be like I know what it's like to be in that position, and like that's like some of my videos are very much kind of like coming to bat. Like I think like my Sasuke video and in tandem with Mathwiz's Naruto video, like I don't really know how much like positive Naruto content was on YouTube before then.
Probably
but
not
like
a lot.
you know but and I feel like there's much, you know, not even just from us. There's like Hot Boy Spicy has a bunch of Naruto videos too, and it's just like I'm just really glad. Like I just, you know, and you mentioned people reevaluating the series and coming into it fresh and not having the old bad takes. And like I'm just, you know, I just want to come to bat for the thing. Like that's why I have
we have no choice but to stand.
And fucking like a million videos on One Piece, and I have these big videos in mind for Bleach because it's like I have to. Like
but it's good we having this passion so that you know, we keep the old guard active. We still make videos, and we're not just burning out after 2 to 3 years. What is it, 18 to 24 months was what the Anime Encyclopedia said is the average half-life of an anime fan.
Interesting. So at like 18 to 24 months, then that's just like how long someone is like in it for, and then they just kind of
the average half-life. Yeah, and then most fans, they just stop. They just don't be fans anymore. They move on.
I hadn't heard that number.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know where they got it from, and I think there is something to that. I talked about it in
totally.
my first Naruto video, where even if it's not exactly 18 to 24 months, like most of us have been longer than that, obviously, but it's very easy to just not, just to fall out of love with it eventually if you don't keep stoking that passion and fire for it. If you just kind of be complacent or, oh, I haven't watched something in a while or something. And yeah, that's what I'm trying not to do with One Piece, because I've seen so many of my mutuals and friends just totally, ugh, or just like, oh, the latest chapter, the latest episode, yeah. But yeah, that's the whole beginning and end of it, I guess.
All right.
No, yeah. I definitely think we've been at it for long enough. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you came
Long
on. I'd
stream.
love to talk with you more
Yeah,
sometime.
for
but,
real. Have to have you on again when I'm not so tired. It's like this last hour, I feel like I've been like a zombie, like been trying to pay attention, but just
No, I don't. I'm surprised that I was able to go because I was so sluggish at the beginning, and I guess my stomach.
you digested,
I did digest eventually.
Anytube digest. That's the real.
oh my god, that's what just happened.
I took it from
That's
Reader's
where we're ending it.
Digest, to be fair. But yes.
That's where we're ending it. All right. Again, thanks a lot for coming on.
Yes, it was
Sorry we
lovely.
kept it going for so long, but like this is our longest stream already. But I had a fun time. I hope you had a fun time. I hope our viewers had a fun time. Apologies to Nun and Vindy being stuck in other time zones and working early because
that's cool.
work is hell. But yeah, all right. Thank you
I
guys.
hear ya.
We
Thank